Chatfish, and welcome to today's Bunchcast. We're rebranding into Bunchcast because I don't really have the name down right, and, takes time. But we also have a new OST using the themes from our game, composed by Robert Renato. 3 songs. So I'll be adjusting if it's too loud, but now we have background music. Yay. So special thanks to Robert Renato for our official OST. But yeah, so today let's get right into the meat of it. So Helldivers 2, the debacle, is not over yet, actually. And it's not over yet, and I say that because the countries that are currently blocking Helldivers 2 from being purchased are still blocking Helldivers 2 from being purchased. So we can't really say we really won yet until everybody can dive. And the reality is no, they cannot. So this is an issue. This is an issue that's only exacerbated by recent news, where they've also apparently added new countries to the list instead of removing it. So the Baltic countries were added: Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. That's bad, because this should be actually going away, and it's not. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about what's important here. So the first big important thing is staying vocal, right? This is all about being vocal and advocating for positive change, because the only thing we can do is simply advocate for positive change. So I'm not going to change my review to negative just yet, but I am ready to do so. And I urge all of you to stay informed and keep everyone informed on the subject as well. And the reason why this matters is because I have friends, in Latvia, Carlos, and it doesn't matter if I don't have friends in these countries, doesn't matter, right? Why shouldn't these guys be able to play this game? Why can't they buy Ghost of Tsushima? Why can't they play Helldivers 2? I didn't want the second podcast to be about Sony again, but here we are. And this is the real issue, right? The PSN thing, the PlayStation Network thing, is a nothing burger by comparison. It's like, okay, you have to make an account. Annoying, right? Whatever. But here's the real crux of the issue. If you don't have if you're not in the PSN area coverage, you just don't get to play, period. That is unacceptable. And that is where we need to draw the line.
Related.
Yeah. They are related, yes, because of the PSN thing, but having to make an account isn't the issue. And I think we need to definitely push the conversation away from that. It's more than just making an account, right? Like, making an account takes like 5 seconds. We all have done it. It's not an issue. But taking away the ability to play the game is absurd. It'd be like, okay, imagine where you're from, right? I'm from Minnesota, United States, right? Imagine it's like, okay, well, I can't buy Ghost of Tsushima now. Pretend I was really excited for that game. Oh my god, that sucks. Why can't I play it? Why shouldn't I be able to play it? And there simply is no good answer. It just for no fault of being born in the wrong borders. Like, are you shitting me? We're past that. This is like, when it comes to gaming, we as a culture, as gamers, as a culture, need to be unified in this front, in this regard. We must stand shoulder to shoulder and let's put aside our differences, because we either play together or we get separated by corporatists and basically, unable to hang out or play games with each other. This is unacceptable behavior. This is segregationist, unironically. And this sort of segregationist mentality is honestly a disease of consoles. I used to, be mostly playing consoles like the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, but I remember this disease, and it's still a disease because it should be talked about, that these corporations push, this factional tribalism, right? They promote this behavior to be like, we good, attack other guy because other guy bad, he different, and because he played different game and he has Xbox, bad, or he has PlayStation, he bad. This factionalism is unacceptable. We need to stop with that crap. And this is something that I honestly see all the time, where it's a lot of, just not okay behavior. Like, being a fanboy, if you like playing consoles, great. If you like playing, PC games, great. Awesome. More power to you, right? But when you start being like, oh, you can't play this game because you were born in a different region, that's just absurd. And I want to know what your thoughts are too, Chatfish, as well as my guest here, for your beer. Like, what do you make of this? Now, before we go any further, I do want to say that for all intents and purposes, they could be working on the way to resolve this now. But what I'm concerned about is the fact that they added more countries to that list. That raises a red flag in my mind. And not only did they add more countries to that, but they also added the same restrictions to Ghost of Tsushima. Which is like, okay, that doesn't look good. That looks really bad.
Didn't Ghost of Tsushima before the entire thing started? Helldivers thing was mentioned. Oh no, you will not require a account. And then Sony went around. No, you do. I think so. I remember seeing some kind of tweet from their official account on that.
From what? I'm sorry.
The Ghost of Tsushima devs or someone else with a similar theme made a comment while the whole Helldivers thing was still going. Oh, you don't need a PlayStation Network account to play this game, and I was I don't know if it was them or someone else that had a similar game, but
interesting. I mean,
pretty sure it was them.
Even so, it's one of those things like, why is it restricting? Because the thing is, the PSN restriction was removed, yet the restriction on countries is all in the areas in which PSN is not allowed. So is the PSN thing just on hold, and they're gonna re-attempt the PSN thing later because they think we're gonna forget? Is that what they're gonna go for?
That's definitely a common strategy, and one thing I find most disturbing, if you bought this Helldivers 2, say, I'll just take the Baltic States as an example, the ones that were added. You bought the game, you spent money on the game, even let's say in a hypothetical on microtransactions, and it's taken away from you. That is disturbing. That is very disturbing.
And I'm pretty sure you can still play it if you already have it. You can just no longer buy it.
I hope that's the case, but...
Well, yeah, no, so from what I'm seeing so far is if people have it, like Carlos, he's our art director, great guy, good friend of mine, he can still play Helldivers 2 right now. He hasn't complained about it at all. In fact, I don't even think he knows about the Baltic thing. We had our developer meeting this morning, and we didn't even talk about this because, well, we didn't have time to. He was hard pressed for time, so we just focused on the meeting. But he's still playing this game, and he's from Lithuania. No, sorry, Latvia. Okay. They're next to each other.
Yes.
They're next.
Yes,
I know, it's easy to get.
Basically the same place.
Yeah, they are pretty much. It's like Switzerland and Germany.
So, a thing I want to point out, by the way, is that Ghost of Tsushima is mostly a single-player game.
Yeah,
and even online itself is not mandatory for it.
And this is where the problem comes.
If they want to make it so that the game uses the Sony servers and network, they could just disable that if they don't want to, if they can't have a PlayStation account. I'm not sure why they're not just doing that. Yeah, that's the multiplayer is completely optional. It's not a major aspect of the game.
Oh, Ghost of Tsushima even has multiplaer? I don't even know that.
It's like a side thing.
It's like PvP or PvE.
This is one of those things
PvE.
Interesting.
Having mandatory internet connection in single-player games. Tips, do you mind if I bring something up that may gonna be a little bit considered chilling?
Chilling? Oh, so turn off your fans. You're a little fuzzy.
Oh yeah, for something related to this.
I mean,
the whole stop killing games thing, because that is definitely related. Forcing an internet connection into a multiplayer game, and you can a single player game, and you can only play the game when you have internet, and in a few servers they turn off the server. You turn off the server, and you can no longer play your single player game. If you wouldn't like this, guys, you probably should have stopkillinggames.com, because there's currently a lot of petitioning going on to get states and government bodies in general involved to stop them from killing games. Because if you want to kill a game, you need to provide some level of alternative
in offline mode,
to can keep playing, which for a single player game definitely justified. For a game like Helldivers, you can make an argument.
Even Helldivers, I think they should. I think they should
need to add something like a local where you can host your own
local area network, or use the Steam, piggybacks.
Yeah, that would be fun. You could just have your own little thing with 500 guys, and then you just have your own story campaigns. That would be a thing, but
the thing is, like, there needs to be plans put in place for games that are multiplayer and are live service so that they can carry on. What happens when Star Wars The Old Republic goes down? What happens when Final Fantasy 14 goes down? What happens when World of Warcraft goes down, right? What if I?
Um,
What
tips-
if? What if these games I bought, I want to play them later on? What happens?
very
You know what happens? They cease to exist.
Very recent example that kicked the whole stop killing games thing off was The Crew, because Ubisoft went, yeah, we're killing the game, and if you have it, well, tough luck, you can no longer play it, and that's some people wrong. And now then someone decided, you know what, I'm going to do something against this, and this is currently blowing up. And I'm just saying, guys, if you
Yeah,
can
no,
help with
seriously,
it,
be loud and be vocal. Like,
yeah, be loud and be
stop
vocal.
killing
exactly.
games. Like, that's an important thing because again, the sad and tragic reality is we need to be more activist, and I hate that because that's not what gaming should be about. But here we are,
just
and
wanna
we
play
need to
games.
promote activism within gaming. And here's why: because if we don't, there's two things that are going to happen here, right? Corporations are either going to continue to be shit, which is unacceptable. That's not an acceptable answer. Or the government is going to come in and start regulating more. That's also bad and unacceptable. We can't have our cake and eat it. We need to actually get off our haunches and be more proactive. If we're not proactive in the industry, what's going to happen is we're going to lose no matter what. Either the government gets more involved and more regulation, which will strangle more indies eventually down the road, because once you open up that sort of worms, then it gets worse as time goes on. And then it's just going to strangle the life out of the industry.
As far as
But the status quo cannot continue either, because corporations have been pushing people around forever, and they've been able to get away with it forever. It's finally time to take a stand, not just for the indie side of things, but just for the gaming industry as a whole, and as a culture, right? Because this is a culture. This is a lifestyle. This is an important aspect of our civilization. Entertainment is important. We can't allow this corporate greed to continue. And so it's important to be vocal and say your piece and not just sit idly by. You have to stand up. You have to not run.
As for the whole government involvement thing, if the government involvement is the government looks at this practice, let's say The Crew, and says, no, this is not okay, this is illegal, they force them to offer then a thing, that's fine. But if the government gets involved and just said, no, we're completely regulating, that's bad. So having some government involvement, as far as
as far as I'm
that is
concerned,
fair, but yeah.
I think we don't want generally.
We don't want that.
We don't want that
but
period.
We may need it because at this point,
Well, the
with
thing
gaming
is,
being as popular,
I'm gonna say
a lot
this.
of
I'm gonna say this, Fair. If the government gets more involved in the industry, we're all going to lose.
yes.
The reason why we
problem
have the
is-
golden age of the indie is because it is a market in which you can freely jump into right now. For example, Fur Armored Bear, you're in chat. You could just go in there right now and start making games. No one's gonna stop you. Yeah, there's some hassle and things you gotta buy in order to get started, but there's a lot of free things you can start. The more you get them involved, the worse it's gonna be. This is why we should be appealing not directly to the government. We should be more so appealing to the masses, and the masses of basically going for a populist style. Like we need a populist leader. We need somebody to unify and rally the gaming market. You guys need to unify.
We currently have someone trying just that.
Yeah, but not to the government.
Yeah, not to the government.
Now, the big thing is, let's see. Hold on. Subtract donates $5. Say, considering the last several years of releases from them, should Microsoft and Sony abandon the console market and just be publishers? I mean, the reality is, if we're going to talk briefly about consoles are they're not going to go away, but they're going to have a new evolution. And this is something I theorized in 2010 or 12 when I was talking with Tyler. Is the idea behind consoles and the direction they're going to go is they're either going to go towards portability, or they're
More like a Steam Deck.
or they're going to go towards portability. It's going to be portability, or it's going to be basically a PC you buy that's guaranteed to play games, because that's what consoles are right now. They are entertainment systems. It's like, okay, this console, you buy it, it's relatively cheap, it's not as good as a PC, but it'll run all these games, and you can rely on the fact that it'll run these games. I think Xbox and Sony are going to transition into just selling PCs and be like, hey, this is the Sony PC, it can run these games reliably, and here's a bunch of games it comes with, and like here's the new network, because
They are gonna
Microsoft
try
is
to
already
push
switching.
exclusivity, though, and you know it.
They're not going to go towards exclusivity. Exclusivity is
Yeah.
going to die eventually. It's just a matter of time. It's going to take time. It's already dying right now, and thank God for that. But consoles are going to be not leaning on exclusivity as much anymore, because games are getting more and more expensive to make, and that's just too expensive to continue to fight that way.
Which is also a
They're
bad
going
thing
to
because-
focus on things like Game Pass or the subscription services of like, you can get these games in this subscription service. And so they're going to try to buy up publishers and games and rights for games so that their passes will basically be like networks like they are on Amazon, right? So if you have Paramount Plus, you know, you can watch Star Trek, blah, blah, blah. In the case of this Microsoft, you're going to be like, I have Microsoft Plus. I can play the Xbox Game Studios games. What few studios exist? That's the dog.
Yeah, the problem is that they're just gonna go the thing. You never own it. You only ever get to play Helldivers if you pay for a monthly subscription.
Because
Because
this
you
is
can no longer own the game.
This is the natural flow of things. As time goes on, consoles are becoming less and less viable because they simply aren't going to be like the plug and play thing is over. There was a point in history when like the 7th gen and 6th gen where consoles were so different from PCs and PCs were so different. That difference is now eroded away to a point where it's not really big anymore. Like, I use my PC to do everything I would with an Xbox. I play movies on it, we hang out with it, we listen to music with it, we play games with it, and it does everything like the Xbox does, but it does it better because it's stronger and more powerful.
The one appeal the console is gonna have is gonna be ease of use, and
Ease of use,
for the
yes.
casual. Yeah, this is why. So, for example, something like Nintendo with the Switch, that was the smartest thing to do. Fuck all graphics. No, you can actually take your console. Imagine you could have taken back then your Xbox 360, and you can just take it whenever, like, because it's basically like the PSP but mobile.
Yep,
With the same power.
that's honestly what I imagine. I imagine the
That's
way of consoles is portability, honestly, and that's how they'll survive. And you know what? That's a market to fill. Some people, like we have a lot of truckers in our audience or military. Well, they don't have the luxury of tugging along a giant fucking PC everywhere. Why not a portable Steam Deck style of console, where it's like a nice little thing you can fit and carry around, and all of a sudden you have access to the same abilities as a PC, but you can also just play games on it and everything else.
That was why the PSP was so great, because just
The PSP
I mean, I
was
jailbroken mine, but
yes,
holy
I know.
shit.
But the PSP, I think, and that's honestly why when Tyler and I had this conversation like ages ago about the PSP was honestly the glimpse into the future. And I know it's old now, but it was like, yeah, I can do internet stuff. You can sort of buy movies for it. It was kind of limited due to the disc thing. But as technology has gone on, that technology is for making miniaturized, computer is getting easier and more affordable. And as miniaturization technology improves, so too will portability and tinier things. Like, look at your smartphone, right? Your smartphone can
Steam
watch
Deck.
movies, it can listen to music, you can watch YouTube videos on it, you can browse the internet and look at hentai, But it's the same shit, And this
I mean, isn't the
importance,
Steam Deck basically that, but open?
more or less. I mean, I don't have a Steam Deck myself. I see the value in it, but like, I don't really travel, so I don't want
Yeah,
one.
same. I would have bought one if I traveled more, definitely.
I don't travel, so I'm not going to do that. Jagerrans donates a generous 50 euros, and thank you very much, sir, for your generous donations. About government control. Fun story. During Commodore era, another nation sent a notice to our government, and he's from Finland, by the way, about raid over Moscow, and demanded it to be banned. At the time, there was no video game control body, so instead of ban, became sales hit. Well, it's because it became a sales hit because it's, it's like taboo. Well, don't buy Grand Theft Auto. It's got sex, drugs, and killing in it. And as a little kid, I was like, I want to play that. You say I'm not supposed to play it? Now I want to
Don't
play it.
threaten me with a good time.
And now I want to play it. And so I finally played it. And I don't even like Grand Theft Auto. But it was such an allure, an appeal, right? Because it's a taboo game. It's like, oh, you're not supposed to do that because it's so violent, bloody, and gory. And it's got sex and drugs in it. And I'm like, oh my God, my 8-year-old, 6-year-old brain's like, I must have a forbidden fruit. I must taste the forbidden fruit, And it was like mysterious at the time. This is more or less the same. But again, let's bring back the conversation to the quote unquote banning in other countries. I think my biggest concerns comes from the fact that more countries are banning. More countries are banned, or they're adding more countries to the ban list. That is my biggest concern here. And this is not good, and this is not acceptable. We can't let Sony get away with this, but we also can't really stop them because, there's only so many of us little chatfish, right? The big thing we can do, though, is be vocal. Like, voice your displeasure. Do it on the forums. Do it on their Discord. At Sony. Message, like, the PlayStation. Do whatever you can. Because if you're not vocal and you're not loud, they don't care. And they won't care. Look at how
They
this.
don't
Look
care
at
in the
look at
first
how the
place.
Microsoft fandom was with the Xbox stuff when they fucked up Halo. Like, they were loud and vocal, but did it really matter? Did it stop them? No. And the reality is, here's why it doesn't stop. Because it's not loud enough. It's not negative enough. If you hit them hard enough, like we did with Helldivers too, their stocks plummeted. Because no matter what, their corporation is not going to look at this very good. It's not good at all. If I remember, Carmageddon. Oh, go ahead.
And one thing about the banning in other countries that's from a pure economic perspective is puzzling. Gaming is no longer just, say, a Japan, US, European thing. It's starting to really expand to other countries you wouldn't think of, like, say, maybe North Africa, certain countries in the Middle East. This is a growing industry that is growing in developing countries, would be the term of it. Sony is just denying themselves money, which is against their fiduciary duty, against their stock, which means if you kick up a stick now, Riley gamers in those countries also, you can start pushing back on this.
You know what I find funny? This is, like, I see it now. This game cannot be activated or purchased in specified countries. And I see Japan here.
Yeah, that
Sony's
is just the
headquartered in
weirdest
Japan.
one. That is just the weirdest one.
Is that... No, that's... Fuck you with this. We're looking at it.
Remember, there's also the
What?
weird thing.
No, Ghost of
also the
Tsushima
weird-
is about Japan.
Yeah.
It's about- What
Remember
the-
the weird thing that is still on the Helldiver page. The game only supports Japanese interface and voice for customers in Japan. That means they went out of their way to make sure you can't use the Japanese voiceover as non-Japanese. And it's just weird because why
Oh,
Japan?
okay. Blake explains this to me because we're a little ignorant on this. He says that's because Japan has its own version of the game that has to go through Zero. Zero is like, I think that's their ESRB, isn't it? Because
Let me see.
it's their board. Because
Oh boy, they're taking a poker home to Germany.
I don't
Yes,
know
this
if
is the rating system.
Yep, it's the rating board. Yep, I figured. Because the
You don't want
ESRB
that.
board, rating board, was created as the industry's response, if I remember right, to government regulation. Because that was during, I think, the Clinton era. I don't remember it very well because I was a little kid. I was like a toddler. So I didn't really understand.
I can explain the era for my parents. It was an era of everything had to be extreme family friendly. If you want an example, look up to go to a different medium just to give the kind of what these times were like. Look up family married with children. Think Al Bundy and that kind of humor. That humor is nothing by today's standards if you look at comedy. But back then, that was so controversial and things had to be so family friendly they tried to get it banned. And that was when this whole big push into trying to regulate gaming, getting big government into gaming happened, and hence you got what Kibbs mentioned. They created the ESRB board, kind of the
Yep, and Europe
resources
has
to
the PEGI
self-regulate.
board.
And Germany has the USK. And let me tell you
Wait, you have a
guys,
different
don't
one?
want that.
Okay, so
Germany
PEGI
needs
must
its
be
own
Britain.
shit. Oh, haven't I told about it? A lot of stores that sell adult video games I just flat out blocked Germany because of the German USK just running around and demanding. Basically every indie game has to get certified by them, or they will just, every store that has a game that is not certified by them will just get into trouble with the German government.
I will say that as far as the German market's concerned, it's absolutely horrific because it's like you're living in basically Nazi Germany, basically, which is ironic because of how they treat.
Totally not Nazi Germany.
When it comes to gaming, Germany is absolutely dictatorial. Very much.
It is getting better. But
Very much like the Gestapo, you know. It's like it's absurd.
Yeah. Remember
You-
when we played what's the word? Sniper Elite, and there were swastikas in the German version. I was just going, oh my god, what? That's an actual swastika.
Yeah,
You
so
just, what?
Fairman's having like
kids
a
was-
heart attack because fucking when we're playing this Sniper Elite game, there's swastikas in the game, and I'm thinking nothing of it because I played like so many World War II games that I've seen them all the time. I don't really care. And he's just like, they're swastikas, and I'm like, Fairman, calm the fuck down. What are you talking about? Are you having like PTSD or something?
Yeah, and then cultural context kicked in, and the kid was going, oh.
You know, because it was like when we played Hearts of Iron, and Fairman's like, my Hitler is a shadow. And it's like, what?
Oh
My
god,
Hitler
yes.
is a
Yes, I censored him.
Shadow Hitler.
Just down.
It is
To
odd
be fair, a
how
lot-
Germany are trying to erase all history regarding World War II. In
Yeah,
their
we have
country.
this. We have this over here recently, where a guy got a teacher lost his job because he had a picture, a shirt wearing a shirt with dictators on it, and nobody had a problem with it. But one of the dictators was Hitler, and for this he's now in a lot of trouble. I mean, he's a teacher; he shouldn't do this, but you're not allowed to show pictures of the bad man.
Well, I think he's trying to make a point, probably. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure.
No, that was not the guy trying to be edgy.
Well, he's not being edgy anymore.
It was an elementary school teacher, and he was wearing that to school. So definitely deserves getting reprimanded. Should the state get involved as far as we're talking about what's called Staatsschutz? I think it's like Homeland Security, the German version.
Ha!
Getting involved? No, no, Homeland Security is not. But it's called
German security.
First Amendment Verfassungsschutz. It's basically someone that's there to protect the what's it called, your Bill of Rights, but the Grundgesetz version, Verfassung.
You and your German words. You and your Ger-
I don't know the English word because I don't think you have an equivalent to that in America. So
Welcome, Stream Balling. And welcome, Psycho Dad, Night Motorcyclist, Vulcan, and welcome aboard, Lord Marshal Yggdrasil. Welcome aboard to another podcast. But yeah, also,
Eh.
be sure to let Robert know in the comments that you appreciate his music. He threw this together using our OST, so he did a good job. Did a good job.
Also, too, you just heard Fairman describe Germany. To steer this to Gibbs' point of why we need to organize and push back now before the government gets involved, that's because a lot of them are salivating at the thought of what turning gaming into what Fairman just described.
Yes.
The
The big-
that is more of a very unique German thing, but this is definitely how it could easily
Yes, because the big problem with government regulation right away, right, is that it's more loopholes from myself, because I'm an indie developer. Like, it's already kind of annoying because you have to, like, you know, if you want to put your game on certain things, you got to pay the ESRB board to review your game, and you have to reach certain criterias. And the more loopholes you add, the more you're going to make it so that only AAA developers, or basically developers, have to tie themselves to Sony. The Sony is one of the companies that we're talking about that causes various issues. I mean, or Microsoft Game Studios. I mean, just look at them. They shut down several of their studios relatively recently, and apparently those studios had apparently performed pretty well, but not good enough by their standard. And I want to point out that that's nothing new either, right away, because people are like, oh my God, Microsoft is shutting down studios because they did really well. Why would they do this? It's like, okay, you guys have not been paying attention. This happens all the time. It's bad, and I'm glad people are pointing it out now. But where the were you when EA did this shit to like Victory Games? Where were you when
But they didn't care about those games.
where were you
kids.
when Pandemic got its store, like it got sabotaged and forced to make a game that was going to sabotage it? Where were you?
No one cares about
Yeah, 'cause,
RTS developers.
It's as long as it doesn't affect them.
Well,
they
here's
don't
the thing.
care. It's,
Here's the thing. Back then, gaming wasn't as popular. Now it's still popular. It was huge. It's huge, but now it's bigger than it ever has been before. And so maybe, because the information age is starting to catch up with the gaming, maybe times are changing. Maybe it's finally time for people to be more vocal. Time for people to be more loud. Because the thing is, before, there wasn't a lot of unifying places. There were some YouTubers, and there was like Total Biscuit, the big ones, and stuff like that. But the reality is, even their influence was relatively limited. And maybe things are changing because now it's not just one person; it's a chorus. And that's
you know, I
kind of the hope I have,
hate-
at least.
I hate to invoke Godwin's law, but what you brought up there, you know the Niemöller quote, "First they came" thing.
Hmm?
Because nobody cares. Oh, they're gonna shut down the Microsoft, but I don't care. I don't play on Xbox. There is a lot of truth to this thing because
sure, if it's just small things, but
We
if
care
this is
about
coming,
everyone, yes.
you need to care because overall it is probably gonna
Well,
affect.
okay, so we can talk about factionalism and tribalism, and this is something that the corporations are going to use against us to keep us divided so they can easily conquer us. So, our console brothers, right? They may not have the luxury and nice thing as us PC gamer gods have, right? But they're still gamers at heart, and we can't forget them just because they don't have the high rigs, right? They got a console. Like, not everybody has a lot of money. Not everybody can afford a PC or have a custom built PC or a very nice one at that, right? Just because of that doesn't mean that they get left to the dust. And so it's like, okay, so anytime there's a game from our end that goes to them, we need to care that they're happy, because it's important that we're all in it together, right? So if we're gonna get an RTS, I'll use a great example in my opinion. RTSs that are made for console and then ported to PC, usually not very good, right? Usually they're pretty bad, right?
I played Red Alert 3 on Xbox for testing purposes. Oh god.
But the thing is, Red Alert 3 at least stayed relatively accurate to the PC version, and while it was pain in the ass to play on the Xbox, they didn't hamper Red Alert 3 because of that. Now, if you look at Spring Commander 2, they downscaled it because of PC. That stuff should be called out because that is bad, right? But Red Alert 3 should be praised because Red Alert 3 didn't, do anything bad there. It has its own problems, but it was made for PC. That means if a game goes from PC to the consoles, it's in all of our best interest that the console players have a good experience with it. Just like when a game from the console comes to the PC, it's in their best interest that we have a good experience. Because guess what? Crossplay is becoming more and more prevalent. All of a sudden, games and their player bases are being bolstered by unification. This unification is a good thing. The reason why is because you take a game that would have had maybe 5,000 players at its peak hours, and then it starts to wane in its waning years, and now it's down to like 1,000 or 500, and it's hard to get a lobby, right? Well, now by unifying PC and console together in Unity, what you see is, well, the 10,000 players on PC and the 10,000 players in console are now merged into one market. And so while it starts to get into its waning years, it's always relatively strong because instead of it being at 500s, it's still in the thousands, right? And so there is a strength in unification. And honestly, the elimination of segregationist mentality in gaming is important, because it's the segregationism that's bad. It's what keeps us apart. It's what's bad for the developer, because the developer gets less sales, right? If they just like, my game's only for PlayStation, well, that sucks, because now all the other people who have Xboxes or PCs can't play it. That's unfortunate. And if we had additional sales, we'd make more money. And if we had more money, we could expand the scope of the project, maybe do more things, because we'd be able to, up the next game, be like, okay, cool, we can add this new feature that's more experimental, where like now when you get, multiplayer, maybe it's got like a cooperative campaign because we had enough time to develop it through the entire game. As before, it only had like co-op, like operation missions or something like that, because it was a smaller, not big enough budget. And so by unifying the markets into one singular market, we're going to have a massive amount of power, because one game has access to everything, right? This is why it's so important to not let this come back, because what this is the return to segregationism. This is the return of that, and it may be small, like Saint Martin and Saint Pierre. These are probably little islands, or Papua New Guinea, and they may not have the biggest player base, but it starts small. And some of these aren't so small, like Iran or Iraq. Now, some of them are authoritarian regimes, so less likely, but still, nonetheless, they shouldn't be left behind in the dust.
And also, as a long-term trend, you don't want this, as this is how companies start getting away with bad business practices, and you start getting people to encourage bad business practices.
Specifically.
Yeah, you want to organize the gaming community so that we keep the companies in check. It's like, no, we want X, Y, and Z. If you want our money, we want X, Y, and Z. You don't want the companies preaching to the customer base this is what you want because we tell you this.
On the topic of, because I saw someone bringing this one up, a lot of Zoomers coming in. Zoomers are not necessarily the problem. The problem is that a lot of people coming in, and this is why you can get away with these business practices, because let's say everyone that watches here is against this and will boycott this. Yeah, but for all of us, there is many people that will just choke that stuff down and
So,
not say anything.
Boycotting
While on the-
is a useful strategy, but because the
Yeah.
market's so expansive, it's not going to be nearly as effective as
need to
as
be
if the
vocal.
industry was niche. The more potent thing to do, in my opinion, than boycotting, because boycotting just, it's not the worst tool in the toolbook, but it's a toolbox set, but it's not the best tool. The best tool we have in our toolkit for how to deal with this problem is to be vocal, and it's not just me. It's Sean there, it's Sven, it's Skullthorn, it's Night Motorcyclist, it's all of you. Like, talk to your friend groups, be vocal with them, and keep them informed. And when it comes to Zoomers and new people coming into the industry, don't attack them. All you're gonna do is alienate them. We need to bring them onto our side. The only way to do this is to explain to them, talk to them, and don't condescend when doing so. It's important to talk to them like relatively level, right? Like how we talk to Squealy. That's not a good example. Don't do that, right, Squealy? I think Squealy's dead.
Yeah.
He might be in the
Here, Phil's yelling in the background.
bathroom. Fair enough. But
On that topic, I want to add this to this thing because I've seen people doing this the whole letter campaign stuff and posting on Twitter. Yes, that's good because there
that's
is
better
also,
than nothing, yes. Because
and you cannot forget this. There's a massive problem. The amount of shills. I can't find the fucking screenshots of this anymore. But people that were just going, "Oh, you people just entitled. You should just shut the fuck up and take what Sony gives you. They're giving this to you, and you should be glad they're giving this to you." And they should be glad that I'm giving them my money. This is a take and give, buddy. And then there's also the thing about the amount of bots, the amount of posts I've seen about, "Oh, I can't wait for this thing to happen at 8th May and at this time," and you just go, "That is a bot. That's not a human that written this." There's a little bit of variation in there, but because if you talk about, let's say, the PlayStation merge happens on 8th of May, and you would say, "Oh, I can," even if you're generally excited for it, you wouldn't say, "Oh, I can't wait for the 8th of May when you can finally merge." You don't talk like that. It's also the thing, if you want to do this, because I saw this with refunds, where people just, "Oh, this is a template, and just copy paste this." Don't do that, because if customer support or just people see this, it's all the copy paste.
it looks
It's
like a bot.
homework.
Yes.
If
It is
what we did,
important to remember that Twitter,
use your
before it was taken over by the new management, they had to cull millions upon millions
yeah,
of bots.
and the bots are still there because
Yes.
yeah. But
Yep.
the thing is, make it like if you're smart, copying the homework, because we had to do a book report. Only one person in the class read the book. Only 2 people did not get. Everyone copied that one person that read the book. Only 2 people didn't get caught for copying the homework. That was me and and another person, because we read the stuff and put it in our own words. Because that made the teacher go, "Oh, okay. No, this is clearly their own wording." And that is the thing. I mean, don't just copy paste. Put your own spin on it. I'm not saying just be hyper creative, but if you just copy paste it, there's gonna, "Oh, this is just a bot campaign." Even if it's not malicious on their end, if Steam gets a lot of refunding, they're gonna assume there may be some bot involvement here. Refund is a bit different, but
yeah,
Make this-
to expedite your point there, Mr. Walk in Circles, basically, yes, never use a formula when writing something. Always write it personally. Does that mean they're going to read it and not toss in the dumpster? No. But by putting in the effort, they have to read it. And seeing that each response is unique shows that it's not just a bot. That is why if you write to Sony, which kudos if you do, I don't have any place to write letters to right now, at least not where I'm sitting. But make sure you write it to the right place, right? So you don't want to write it to Sony Entertainment, right? Because it's like movies and shit. You want to send it to
customer service
PlayStation.
probably, yeah.
PlayStation specifically. Because PlayStation is the one that handles the game stuff. And it's important to figure out who's in charge of what and sending it the right place. Because you send your shit to the wrong place and all it's going to do is just end up in the dumpster. But when you message stuff or when you talk to people, the big thing is staying vocal and being loud, right? That means being active in the forums. That means being active in the Discord communities. That means being active in on X or Twitter or whatever social media platform. And the reason why it's important, even though it's only a little voice, right, is because with all of us working together, our little voice gets louder. And even if our entire community is as loud as they can be, it's still a little voice. But if somebody else in their community does the same thing, that adds to our little voice. And it
It's
gets
a whole
bigger
bundle of sticks argument.
and bigger until it's a loud chorus. And now everybody knows about it. And you know what this does? This affects their stocks negatively. And why it's important is because corporatists and or corporate suit people or execs may not necessarily care about the little issue of us little guys, right? But they will care when their stocks start to go down. Because investors are going to look at this and be like, Jesus Christ, what a shit show.
Yeah, that's
why
financials.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why going after financials is always a good way, especially for publicly traded companies. Private is a whole nother issue because
Yep.
depending on the owner, they might be willing to take more of a hit. But public companies, there are strict laws, at least in the West, of you have to uphold the fiduciary duty to your stockholders. If that goes down, then they see numbers go down. Especially this is why you need to organize, be vocal, and really go after these companies. That forces change.
Yep.
And they'll be forced to react.
Because boycotting has its strength, but boycotting does not have the same strength as being loud and negative. Because being loud and negative can actually dip stocks. And when it comes to shareholders and stuff like that, that shit makes them scared. That makes them sketchy. And them being scared is a good thing for us. Because if they're scared, they're not going to want to invest. And if they're not going to invest, they're going to raise that at the board meetings. And they're going to be concerned about, hey, what the hell are you guys doing over there? Like, I'm investing a lot of money here, and you guys are playing with it like it's, you know, just a toy. So this is why it's incredibly important to be vocal. Because being vocal, I think, has more impact than anything else. Being a semi-activist is a good thing. Now, this is always dangerous, too.
Being vocal and not unhinged.
Yes. Always be rational, never be extreme. Rational, because if you act unhinged, they'll weaponize you.
Yes,
And
use
this is
your
what I
brain,
mean.
don't be emotional.
I know,
You're just being
but-
angry, screaming.
But if you're being angry and screaming, then they'll use you as a tool. And by you and who's using you, I'm talking about the simps, the bootlickers. The bootlickers are the vanguard and defense of the corporatists. They'll
that's
come
so
in
many.
and they'll fucking defend every little action and thing. And they're going to use anyone who says something that sounds unhinged, even if it's a shit post, right? We say shit posts all the time. Dumb shit. You know, just for shits and giggles. But they'll use that as munition to be like, see, you're appealing to terrorists. I've seen that earlier where it's like somebody said that, good, I'm glad it's banned in these countries so that those white supremacist terrorist PC gamers is like, what? why are all PC gamers aren't all white? Most of you guys are like fucking Asian.
People who
So you
use that kind of
guys-
language, I'm getting the feeling weren't really there to.
They're not
From the
there.
beginning.
They're there to stir shit is what they're doing.
Yes.
They're trying to lead us astray, chat. We must not allow it. Chatfish strong together, as Garbwire would say. Misspelling it a little bit. Because everyone acts
Speaking
extreme to
garble
points,
gibberish.
it's the majority where there's no option but to listen. The thing is, when it comes to how we deal with it, it's like saying like, you know, God, what can I say? How can I say that without YouTube getting mad at me? I don't think I can. It's like saying, I quote, quoting, I'm not saying it, YouTube, but
Don't
you know,
say it, kid.
don't say it.
Don't say it.
Just don't.
Okay,
Sony
Sony,
don't- remember, Sony.
You know what I'm
YouTube
saying.
Don't care about campaign.
Just imagine I said something incredibly unhinged about what that should happen to Sony or people that work there, right? We
We'll
need
eat
not
their
allow,
babies, that kind of shit.
you know, eat their French fries and take their ketchup or whatever. You know what I mean? That's the kind of shit that they're gonna always rally behind because like, look at that, they're so mean. Like, just don't give them that munition.
Oh, however, it would be funny if that was cut out of context.
Yeah, no, right.
It would be funny regardless of the situation.
The thing is, those people always be disingenuous. You can't be too worried about them because they're going to take you out of context anyways. And they'll always go after somebody because somebody will misspeak or something like that. But I think we can all agree, and I'm pretty sure all of you, chat, are on the same side. You want to be able to play games and more or less be left alone. Like, I want to play this game. Oh, well, sorry, you can't because you're in Gibraltar. Get fucked. And I think that's bad. That's why even as an American, well, I can still buy this game and play it. I think it's important to be vocal because why can't somebody from Gibraltar play this game? Why can't they play it? And I have friends in like other countries that are on this list. And I'm like, well, I like to talk to my friends and I want them to experience this game too. Why shouldn't they be able to? And the answer is like, well, because it's a PSN coverage. Well, that's not a good enough answer. That's not good. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. And this is going to tie us back to the PSN thing because my biggest concern with the PSN thing right now is it's not a victory until this world blocking thing stops. Because the PSN issue was only the tip of the iceberg. The real iceberg was people not being able to play the game. And right here, what this list shows is people not being able to play the game. That's not acceptable. We cannot allow that. And so if this persists, because I am looking at it and I'm thinking about changing my view, and I might do it later today. Depends on how I feel. But if especially if it gets worse, I'm gonna go back to being negative. I'm gonna re-release a negative review, and I'm gonna go to my curator Steam curation page and switch my curation officially to negative. If they do that, because no, it's not okay. It's not acceptable. Like, yes, there are other countries that ban Steam. I think Vietnam bans Steam, if I remember right, or something like that. Yeah, that's whatever. Like that's the country being a piece of shit, and that's neither here nor there. But if it's the game company itself, like PlayStation, be like, no, they can't buy it. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. Well, technically, Frederick, they haven't necessarily changed their mind, but I've seen no evidence to suggest that they are doing it. They said what we wanted to hear, right? But they didn't do what we wanted. They removed PSN, which is one thing, right? It's one little thing. PSN is not the big issue. The big issue is this fucking list I'm looking at. Not being able to play the game is a completely different issue than having to make an account. And yes, they are connected, I know. But I'm just saying they're not comparable to the gravity, because this list here is absurd. This list shouldn't exist, period. If you're in any of these countries, Angola or wherever, if you can afford PC or a game, then you should be able to play it. Why not? And I feel like I'm just going in circles, but the problem is like this whole issue, it boggles the mind. Because if Sony can get away with it, right, then what's to stop Microsoft from doing the same? I mean, these corporations do dumb shit all the time, right? Just the other day, Microsoft killed a bunch of their allegedly good studios that made games that performed pretty well, allegedly. But apparently not, because they killed the studios. They didn't really seem to have that much problem doing it.
And also to go back to Rapier made a good point. Make sure to reward the companies when they do something good. It's like you need the pain when they do something bad, such as Suicide Squad allegedly suffering a $200 million loss. Good. Hogwarts Legacy. Good game. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of drama around it, but made bank. Reward them for good behavior and tell them they're good behavior. Good. It's like you need the pain when they do something bad, reward them when they do something good. That's the key word to the message. Hey, there's money when we do the X, Y, and Z. Stockholders see that. Stock goes up, good things happen.
Yep. I mean, with Hogwarts Legacy, the game wasn't amazing, but it was alright. And you know what?
Yeah.
I enjoyed my time in it. I wouldn't mind one day replaying it one day. Maybe modding it, making it funny. But the thing is, with that game as well, it was just an okay game. It was an okay game. And you know what?
There was
It was largely
in it.
inoffensive from what it was.
It was alright. It was funny because you could Adava Kedavra people to death.
Nobody gave it.
Whatever.
Nobody gave
In
a
public,
shit.
out in the open.
And the characters would be like, dude, what the hell? What are you doing? It's like, I'm just fucking killing people, dude. I'm just fucking killing. I thought that shit was hilarious. I actually really enjoyed the combat system, as remarkably simple it was, because as a child, the idea of just like killing people in the Harry Potter universe just indiscriminately was just, I don't know, it's funny.
Gibbs turns into Lord Voldemort 2.0.
It's like, and then these characters are just like, why did you do that? And it's like,
With a big smirk on his face.
Now,
Kill
kids,
him.
to play devil's advocate here. Okay, the game did have a lot of diversity quota bullshit in it.
Oh yeah, no, it did, and the characters.
Yeah.
A lot of the characters look ugly. Like there was
Yeah.
the one girl from the African region, and it's like,
Didn't
and
make
she's like,
sense
I'm
why.
African exchange student. Okay.
and
It
it's
wasn't
like,
really
but-
a thing back
but
then, but
why are we doing this in the 18th century, and why is it that we're taking such great focus on it? Like, it's one thing to do it and just be like, okay, here's a character and they so happen to be black, and that's how you write, like a real writer, but you're not.
Well,
real
the reality is that they're filling out a checklist.
It's a
Kevin. That's
it's a
what's going on.
DEI checklist. Yes, that's what it is. It's a fucking checklist, and the checklist shit is cancer. It's like, we gotta have people with that skin disease where they got white splotches on their face, and despite being like brown or whatever. And I was like, that is a skin disease, and I have a friend who has that, and you know, it sucks. And he's like, God, it looks hideous. And I was like, oh, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do? I guess you could paint yourself. I don't know. I guess you could. But it's
'Cause
like
what
one
I
of those things. Like, yeah, people do exist with that, and you know what? That sucks. But people are way overplaying how common that is. I know one person in my entire life that has that, and he's like, I've never even seen anyone with this shit.
See,
Is
this
it-
all plays into the thing where Fuzzy brought up with, you need to reward them for when they do something good. Yes, but because I see this a lot, because the game does one woke thing, overall it's a good game, and people just freak the fuck out as if that thing basically
No.
is the mother.
Bruno Pieces, I have that
And you
too.
should, yeah.
Yeah,
And
go
you
ahead.
shouldn't do this, because a game, pretty much every one of us that liked it here, that had quite a lot of quote and die and diversity in it, was under 1800. It was just not on the nose, which is why, at least for me, I was going, you know what, yeah, it's there.
Yes, so there's a threshold, I
It doesn't
believe.
jump me in the face, but I can see why someone doesn't like it. But you shouldn't just say, this is a woke piece of crap, I'm never gonna buy that, because this is just turning you into... Well, extreme is maybe a little bit harsh, but...
Chairman, before you continue,
streams.
apparently stream's getting choppy, yeah.
Oy vey, shut it down. Chance, I was
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that. You're gonna. Oh, yeah, quiet for a second. Let's see. Error. YouTube is
Funny.
not receiving enough video to maintain. What are you doing, Restream? Do I need to go yell at you guys? 6,300 kilobytes per second. Your bitrate setting is out of recommended for X. Oh, I don't care about X. Yeah, no, we have 22 frames per second right now.
Ooh.
Oh, why so low? Wow, why are you doing that? You okay, computer? Computer's like, no.
Computer just, no.
Weird. It might clear up. Yeah, I'm gonna ask one of you guys to go watch.
It's mostly okay on my end, from what I can tell.
Mhm.
Like every now and then, there'll be like a single frame of buffering, and then it'll go back to normal.
Will it clear up or will it not?
I
That's
don't
the issue.
know.
I don't know either. If I knew, I would do something.
Getting rich for other people though, so it might be regional.
Just gonna shut down something. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. That's the sad part.
Normal stream is fine, it says Killjoy. So, probably, yeah, it's probably YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is a little bit choppy. It looks stable at the.
Yeah, because I'm
oh, wait, there it
checking.
goes.
I'm checking Restream's backend, and Restream says signals transmitting to Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at nominal levels. So something is going on with YouTube. Oh well. Well, let's try to focus on the subject as long as it's not cutting out too much.
I mean, as long as the water is okay, that's at least something, I guess.
But yeah, hopefully it clears up for your chat. Chat, keep me posted. I trust in the chatfish. The chatfish is wrong. So what were we talking about? Oh god, there was something that was like a great segue into a topic that's actually quite important when it comes to the industry that we hadn't talked about yet. God damn it, what were we just talking about? Somebody remind me. Stupid YouTube. Don't make a curveball.
Baron, what are you talking about? Bearman,
What?
what were
I
you
forgot what
talking
it was.
about?
What was I talking about?
I hate you.
I also was pretty much done. That was what I know.
You're going off a point I made.
You know, what were you talking
Yeah.
about?
Oh, oh yeah, right. The people, just because there's something like diversity in it, you shouldn't freak out like some kind of monkey that got angry, because yes, there's gonna be some of that stuff. I'm not saying you have to accept it, but if the game is good and overall it's just, let's say Helldivers had the whole Helldivers is a good example. It has
body types: lean and what's the word? What's called
Brawny.
bulky? Yeah,
Voice
brawny.
pack.
And normally, yes, of course, a few years ago it would be male-female body type or something. But that's not a problem, because not only is it not in your face, and you can make an argument, okay, makes sense because you can pick the voice and combine that freely. It's I think that's there. Could be that 20 or 10 years ago they would have done the same thing. Could have been not a problem. If it's like the thing, what's it called, Halo Master Chief Edition did, where they retroactively changed it, then you know it's fucking political. Or the example I brought up for a game that had quite a lot of diversity and woke stuff in it, Anno 1800, still a very good game, still worth playing. If you say you don't
Oh
want
yes,
to
okay, thank
that,
you.
Yeah.
The critical threshold, yes.
Yeah.
So there comes a level I think we can all agree on where a game, now the minute you do any sort of DEI stuff or woke stuff, you're already going to have fall off. Player fall off happens immediately
Yes,
from the
that's
moment
fair.
of doing that. But I will say there's a critical threshold for me, and I think everyone has that, where it's tolerance level, right? With the Dead Space remake, it was very minor. It was like,
That's
okay,
another good example. Yeah.
it was like, you know, like the girl who gets brutally murdered and is a piece of shit, and she gets brutally murdered, is lesbian. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay,
Unnecessary change.
that was an unnecessary change. And also that's a weird statement that you did that, because like, okay, so like lesbians
He was a
die.
villain. She was evil.
Lesbians are
and-
evil and die horribly. Okay, fair. I'm not sure what the message is here.
I
What's
don't
the
know what you
And
message?
say.
that's actually a crazy thing to say though, because one person can't represent a whole list of people.
Yep, because
But
the
because
issue
of
is DEI is it does
representation,
that,
because
yeah.
of representation, they are forced to.
Yep. But the,
Yep, and
the
there's also a chance that the developer is very capable, very competent, doesn't want that, but then the publisher, no, we need this quota, and what are you going to do? No, I'm not going to do this. Yeah, then you're out of a job, and then get a guy that will do this. So sometimes you have to toe the line, even if you don't want to. Not talking about the customers here. I'm not saying don't yell at the developers necessarily. If the game overall is good,
well,
it's not too much they can do sometimes. You could
so
say
there's-
don't take the
there's
deal,
a
but
threshold, right? So
yeah.
like I'll reference back to when I worked at that Burger King, right? It's important to complain because somebody needs to know that something's not right. And so sometimes, not always, putting pressure on the little dude will sometimes causes that pressure to go upstream. Now, usually you don't want to do that. Usually you want to try to circumnavigate things. You want to talk to the manager. You want to be a Karen. But you want to usually take it to the next level, because the little guy on the phone, odds are the little guy on the phone doesn't do much other than what he can do. And he might be shit at his job. You know, there's always that possibility. But you always want to go to the next level. In the case of developers and publishers, you kind of want to move it up the chain to the publisher, because the publisher will do this thing what I call put the squeeze. And what's the squeeze? Well, the squeeze is when the publisher looks at the little developer and picks him up and squeezes him and stares at him very angrily as he squeezes the life out of him, because the publisher now has a problem that the publisher doesn't like, and the publisher controls a lot of the financial power and the investing, and so they squeeze the developer, and the developer goes, you know, as it's squeezed. That's what happened to Creative Assembly recently when Sega saw they were making a game, and Sega basically picked up Creative Assembly and was like, hey, you make Total War games. And Creative Assembly looked up at them and was like, but I want to make other games. And so Sega just closed their hands and started squeezing until tiny screaming noises could be heard coming from the hands. And
Hundreds of millions of pounds flushed down the toilet.
that's Creative Assembly going, as a crushed under Sega's giant hands. And now,
Sega going,
what happened? Creative Assembly released a new Total War Warhammer DLC thing, and while I still think the DLC model is disgustingly overpriced, and I think that's entirely down to incompetence on their part, but I will say that the quality of the content is notably improved. It's pretty cool. Some of the mechanics are quite fun, and some of the units are kind of fun to play with, and that's nice. And it's a step in the right direction. But yeah, that's what I mean. Putting the squeeze on them, right? It added up. Creative Assembly was a great example with Pharaoh Total War, Troy Total War. Boom, bomb. It just didn't do well. And you guys are vocal about it. You're like, I don't like it. You bought it, You left a negative review, you refunded it, and you did the impact. You tried it, you said an honest opinion about the game, and you refunded it and got your money back. Unlike me, rip. But which I did.
Yeah, it was a multi-point attack. There are Saga titles are not bringing the return on investment. Creative Assembly was through. There was at least 3. There was Hyenas, which at least had 100 million pounds.
Oh, they won horrible.
100 million pounds flushed down the toilet, and there were 2 other projects that were flushed down the toilet. On top of that, and if you look in the investment report, there are 2 points. 1, Sony team, as far as I know, is half the size of Creative Assembly, yet pulls in a lot more money. Creative Assembly blew up to, I wish I had a screenshot of this. The latest employee size is 896.
Yes.
They pull in a fraction of the revenue,
Getting big
and yet we're
is
blowing
not-
through money.
Getting
saw
big is
this
almost
with Unity.
never a good thing, honestly.
Well, we see this with Unity. So when the Unity debacle happened to our Indio studio, hello Indio, our indie studio, one of the big problems with what Unity did when people started looking into it is that Unity, the developer, had bloated with a lot of people that were being hired, basically friends and family, so to speak, were being hired into this company. What were they doing? Not really anything. This happened with X as well, or Twitter, as it was called before, where they bloated and they started hiring a bunch of people, and these execs weren't really doing anything, and they were just milking it and draining it dry like parasites, hiring people that don't do anything, that aren't productive, and that have no talent, and like people that just like, what's your job? My job's to go get like the lattes and like clean up like the latte area. It's like, what?
Yeah.
That's not a job. That's not a job
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
like
Also,
wasteful.
I found now after an hour almost, I found the fucking post with the screenshots with all of the bot replies. Is it still relevant, or should I just not bother with it?
Well, you can post it in the discussions, and I'll bring it up. But that's what I mean. This bloat happens, right? In studios. Now,
I mean,
Arrowhead doesn't have that right now, but Sony, as a megacorp, probably does have that. So I have family that works in Microsoft, and I've been to Microsoft's headquarters in Washington, Seattle, and it was very nice, I will say. But the one thing I found fascinating is there was a food court, and the food court is like 2 stories, open air, circular building sort of thing, and there were various like restaurants in there, and you could just go and get food. I got this massive fucking burger, biggest burger I ever had in my entire life there. And as I was eating it, I was wondering to myself, like, well, maybe, like, this is cool and all, but how much of, like, the nice things in this building are necessary? You know, success does allow for certain things to be had, luxuries, right? But how much of this is necessary? Like, maybe the food court is necessary because then everyone stays in the building and they keep working. Okay, maybe. But how much of it, though? How many of these restaurants were necessary?
Have you ever seen that video of that LinkedIn worker where 90% of the day is basically just going into a spa, taking a rest, and shit like that, where you just go, that's not work, that's fucking
Yeah, and so
spa.
another thing I'll point out, and because I'll admit to this because I'm part of the problem, Chan. But like when I was a little kid, you know, when I was there, as I was exiting, or we were getting close to the end, and they're like, hey, you have like Xbox 360 stuff. Would you like some free stuff? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And so like take as many you want from this room. And like I went to the room, and I filled my bag full of Xbox 360 controllers because I love those controllers so much. And I still I have so many of them. I have so...
I think they're still selling those, don't they?
Apparently not. So apparently I have a lot, so I'm gonna hold on to those because they're rare now.
Well, I mean, even I have some of those because they're good controllers and they work on PC. So
This is why they could sell them for way after the 360 was sold.
Because that, like, also other things, like I remember, like I have Xbox Live forever.
Boo.
Like I always get it every year, or Game Pass or whatever it's called now. Like I get like a card from them every year, and like here, yours access another year, and I just got them, and I never redeemed them, but I have them. And
It's in there.
what's interesting to me is like, okay, you see, there are benefits that come, right? But I'm not working there. My dad's not working there. It's like a relative over, and I'm getting all these things. And well, that's cool. I'm wondering how much money that has cost. How much is I, as an individual, have cost Microsoft? as a parasite.
I can explain this partially, the business economics of it. Yeah, labor is easily the single most expensive thing for a business, and what you're talking about, Kibbs, is benefits. Benefits which on campus and off campus. I'm not talking about just healthcare and insurance. I'm talking about all those other corporate niceties that you just described. That costs a mountain of cash. It's like when Creative Assembly, for example, they were advertising on their corporate career page the very same things. Oh, look at all this nice stuff. It's as if it's a corporate daycare center. That costs a lot of money.
Yeah, that
And then
happens too.
in the
The
context of the
thing-
gaming industry, you have a lot less, how do I say it, operating profit to work with here because, well, it's the gaming industry. It's just the way it is.
And yell at me if I'm wrong, but from the what I'm looking at in the recent years, more money almost certainly does not make a better game or movie. Considering, look at the successful movies
yes.
and games, and the money. For example, with movies.
Oh, God.
That Joker movie, everyone liked 50 million. And now if I tell you, oh, Joker 2 is gonna have 500 million. Now, do you think that's gonna be better or worse? Unrelated to that movie should not have had a sequel, but do you think that sequel is gonna be better or worse?
Honestly,
No.
I don't
Same
think so. Because here's what normally happens, right? Is inflation of things. So one of the biggest problems in the industry, and I don't know if this affects Arrowhead, but I do know this affects a lot of other big studios. And I do know it affects a lot of EA things, because I remember learning a lot of stuff at the Greenlight Summit, like 2012 or 2013 or whatever it was. But one of the big things I learned as a kid was that a lot of corporate executives just eat all the money. And not only do they eat all the money that a studio makes, or they devour the money, but they don't reinvest back into the studio. They don't reinvest back into their studios if they're a publisher. They take their money and they invest it in other companies all over the place. They diversify their portfolio, which is a bit financially smart thing to do, but they're not investing any of the money back into the studios, into themselves. And it's this lack of investing in themselves. Like, look at what we've done with our indie game, right? We have a tabletop war game, and it's on version 6.1 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, tabletop team, if you're listening.
6.1 is not officially out.
Oh, you're
until I
there?
give a yes, but yes.
Okay, it's not officially out. Yeah, because you're working on that. And it looks fucking... Like, you guys showed me the character creator today in the developer server. And oh my god, it's so fucking cool. Like, you can customize everything down to, like, the weapons, down to the rank and file. Like, the character creation thing is so cool. And all we've done is taken the money that chat's given us from the donations and just reinvest it outside of the living space things. And by reinvesting all that money...
Not make joke.
I know, but by reinvesting all that money, look at how far we've come. Imagine what EA could do with that money. Imagine what Sega could do with their money if they reinvested it. If they, in Sony, what they could achieve would be beyond anything we had ever seen in terms of, like, creativity.
No, I can tell you they would probably not that much, because
I mean, they're not investing it. That's the
they
issue.
would still, yeah, even if they would still blow the team up. And we are on a...
I know.
That's my opinion. Back then, video games got made with a level of passion. Now it is literally just a job. People don't give a singular shit. And look the kind of games we're getting.
There are still people that actually do have passion in the industry.
Yes, there are still people there.
But there are a few between.
Don't say there isn't any, because it's been the same since fucking
Alright.
very beginning. That there's been a job for people.
Squealy, let's just say
Hold
there's
on,
a team
hold
of
on.
500.
Hold on. So, like, let's talk about the industry because my uncle worked for, like, Black Isle originally with, like, Fallout 1 and all those old games, right? And so, like, one of the big things with that is that back then, there were people with passion at Black Isle Studios and a lot of great people. But Interplay was not a good person. Interplay was a really bad thing. And Interplay was corrupt and did bad things. And they used to be the Titan. Not a lot of people remember Interplay, but they were one of the Titan publishers. They were basically EA before EA. They were huge.
Microsoft before Microsoft.
Yeah, I know. Well, not Microsoft, but the Interplay was big. And not many people remember Interplay anymore.
The evil time forgot.
But, God damn it.
Posey came back.
Welcome back, Halsey. You get a bell smash. Because where have you been? I love you. Now, he's only $100 say it's all in how the money is leveraged. Good to see you, Halsey. Hope you've been well. Who misses you?
But the reality is that there's always been shovelware. There's always been the people who just don't care in the industry.
It's all
Yes,
the money
but
is
it's
leveraged.
nowadays it's just so much
The only
more.
thing
That's
that
true.
changes is who's the one that cares.
Yeah, and on the topic of passion, I'm not saying there's no passion, but if you have a team of 500 guys, and 10% of those have passion, that's 10%, and it's gonna show. There's gonna be parts of the game where you go, "Oh, didn't we have a game recently where we said this looks awesome, but the rest of it was shit because one part of the team clearly had a lot of passion, but the rest did not give a shit. So you're still not gonna get a good game out
Well,
of it.
you have parts of the game where they're just developing assets.
You do see
That's their job.
certain games like where things are really good. Like for example, Modern World of Warcraft has really cool looking art, but the game story is really shit. And that's an
we play it?
example because we have friends at Blizzard Entertainment and they're really good people, but they're all artists and you know, they're kind of, you know, having trouble because the executives are Activision execs kind of make all the rules and they sort of push them down a path. It's like, you gotta have inclusivity, you gotta have diversity, you gotta be pro LGBTQ plus. It's like, but what does this have to do with us killing orcs or fighting demons? And it's like, demons?
Yeah, that's a common thing you see in business of a
The
leadership
Festa
problem.
thing,
Which,
yeah.
That's okay, Halsey. We all need breaks after once in a while. It's good to see you back, though. Halsey, over the rainbow. Well, you cheered me up, Halsey. I've been having a bad day. Actually, I was having a bad day 2 days ago. But now I'm having a better day. Executives are like Uncle Junior. They don't even pass the salt, let alone eat alone. Oh my god, so back to executives and my biggest problem with them in the industry. After just learning more about them, both from my family members that worked with them and other developers. The fact that they get lots of money and they eat so much goddamn money, right? That's not like, okay, success, right? Capitalism good, generally. But the fact that they take that money and invest it is a good thing. But they don't invest it back in the studios that are underneath them. They just, like, let's diversify my portfolio for myself. And you saw this with the Unity guy too, where the Unity guy basically came in and is just like there, and he's a leech. He comes in, and there's these leech execs that exist, and they go from place to place, and they just
Burn that one
suck,
down and then move on.
like a fucking mosquito. They come in and they just
Locust
suck
kids.
all.
No, they're more like locusts.
Yeah, they
ruin the place.
bring in people that come in and they're there to just drain the company dry. That's what
And
was
once
happening
that
with
thing
Unity.
Actually, once that thing actually implodes, they are already at the next company and they're no longer at fault.
Yep.
That's the
Well,
guy after
they're
the
already
fault.
moving on to the next victim, right? And that's they make their living doing this, where these people just migrate from company to company, and all that work, because all that good work, all that good capitalism that built up these studios, that built up these things, and they just come in and then they just drain it out until it's just gone, and then they move on next place, drain it out like a leech. And that's all they do. They just go from place to place, draining the life out of everything. This is why, like, publicly traded things are like, I just don't know how to feel about them. Like, it's just like, ugh.
In general, you only really. I don't see that here. Nah.
Also, the fact
mean,
that
why
like
do you
executives
like
are like I get that it's like a position, like an expertise, like being a leader,
For them, it's
like a
just
director,
job,
right?
To think to make money.
I know, because like being director of Battle Image Studios, I learned a lot of skills over time, and I wasn't very good at it when I started, but I learned a lot of things about leadership and what it means to be a leader and what it means to be the director of a project, and you know, the fact that what you do when you're in charge, how to respond to criticism, how to handle when team members are fighting over a creative art direction, how to diffuse a situation, how to, you know, figure out a direction to push in, how to motivate people. Those are skills I had to learn all on my own. I didn't go to a school for them. I just learned them self-taught, basically. And I made mistakes, and I've misstepped along the way. But you think people that are in these similar positions, because they have to have the same skill set that I have, because if you're in a leadership role, you kind of have to know how to communicate, how to work as a team, how to set a directive, you know? And like, we're working towards this goal. Let's go, boys. Like, rally the boys. But it doesn't look like that. And that's my biggest fear, is that a lot of these people are actually not that at all, or have no actual experience, or worse, don't care at all. And when I look at shit like this, when I look at this, and I look at Sony's response, what I see is people that don't care. Sony's response, I see just like the corporate, we hear you, and we're gonna remove the PSN thing. We're learning, we're trying, but we're just
We're
gonna
gonna
do this.
try when you're not paying attention.
And it's like, well, what's this? What am I looking at here today? What is this blocked countries list? Yes, the PSN feature is removed. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. The PSN issue wasn't the real problem. The PSN thing was the tip of the iceberg. Not being able to let our friends play the game is the real issue. And that's my concern, tying it back to the executive stuff. Because I don't think they actually care. Do they actually care about these games? Do they even play games? Like, we've talked about this in the previous stream, but yet we have to bring it up again, which is annoying. But that's a serious question we need to ask. Do these executives even like games?
No, and the ones that do like games are not gonna be in that position for long, because those are the people that are gonna speak against them. And this game, we shouldn't care about the money. We should care what the customers want. And the other executives, yeah, but this makes us less money, so you are not fit. Those people are not gonna get high because they actually have some principles they're gonna stick to.
This is something you'll hear from a lot of people too. We're like, oh, it was different back in like the 2000s or in the 90s. No, it wasn't. Like, if you actually look up this problem has been plaguing the industry since its inception. It's an inherently human flaw, sadly. Like, that's why I recommend. I know, that's why I recommend people look up the issues and how Interplay fell, because Interplay was EA before EA, was Activision before Activision. Like, it is old. I mean, Activision's been around forever too, but how they fell is the exact same problems of what we have today. The same mismanagement, the same corporate shenanigans and bullshit behind closed doors. Nothing's changed.
The problem we have nowadays is that there's so much money to be made in that thing, and this attracts the locusts. So it was a problem, but it wasn't as bad due to popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you don't want the thing you like get popular. Period. Give me a single thing where that was a good thing to happen.
Unironically, Jano, he said, laughing my ass off, I imagine Bobby Kotick playing games. Yeah, like, I close my eyes and I'm like, God, Phil Spencer playing a game.
Hobby games development
should
be a thing where people are afraid of and not having fun. Kotick.
I honestly think.
Remember, that was a code he had.
I honestly think, like, executives should have to be boots on the ground occasionally. Like, yes, a director or a leader or a general should do what a general does, but they should understand what's happening on the ground, because that disconnect is the same disconnect, and I'm going to cite an actual war, World War I, where a lot of the leadership, a lot of the generals and officers were very disconnected with what was happening on the actual front lines in the trenches on the Western Front.
They were just numbers.
Yep. They were disconnected from reality. This is why it led to so many arrogant strategies and very just absolutely brain dead decisions. It wasn't because, the machine gun was invented and that's why they couldn't win. It was because the generals were so, I don't know if you want to call it dogmatic, or so arrogant in their ways that they refused to acknowledge the situation for what it was. Especially if you look at like the French like marshals and stuff. Like it's you see this on leadership, not just in gaming industry or in war or wherever. You see this leadership problem where it's a lacking of understanding of what's actually happening, of understanding the real situation as it is. What do gamers want? And even the developers of Helldivers 2 have said this too. It's even on a more micro scale, right? Like, the developers themselves have said, like, yeah, no, we understand that the players aren't very happy with the overall balance of the game. And yeah, they have been nerfing guns too much, in my opinion. Well, a lot of the guns are viable. It's kind of lost that flair that the game had when it first launched, where it felt like a real power fantasy, where we're going around as super Helldiver dudes and beating the shit out of all the enemies of mankind. That felt amazing. And while that still has that feel, more or less, in the game, it feels a little diminished, doesn't it?
They're trying to have this being a power trip, but also balance, and that is gonna be the hard thing.
Yeah, about the executive
Feels like
part.
it, at least.
First of all, with publicly traded companies, you get the stockholders elect the board of directors. The board of directors picks the C-suites and those are the top level people. A lot of the time they don't understand the domain knowledge of the industry, and that's a key word here. A lot of these executives, either they don't have the domain knowledge, or they say don't understand shooters, they don't understand, say, how co-op works, etc., etc.
Oh god, yes. Fuzzy raises such an excellent point, because we can bring this back to the EA stuff of the
'cause
2000s. Remember with the forced multiplayer gimmicks in all their games?
Yeah, and I have to bring up a point. When I was going for my master's degree, I actually talked to one of the developers that, because he was the same class as me, that worked on a bunch of the Halo games, and he told me about how these executives works. He called them all idiots, where he would tell them, okay, and he was all on the engineering front, where he said, hey, we need X amount of time in order to make sure the game runs. A lot of the executives, they don't understand how the industry works, and they just go, no, we need to set these deadlines. The other side of the problem is, the best example I could say is Square Enix's Thief. Their Thief game, the one with all those overly done animations, that suffered a different type of leadership problem, where, yes, you got a bunch of leadership that knew the gaming industry, but they didn't understand Thief. What you got there was, you get one set of executives and middle managers that, this is what we want Thief to be. You get turnover, high turnover. You get another set of leadership, where even if they knew how to run a business, they would have to, oh no, we want Thief to be this, where even though they had a competent engineering team, competent artists, leadership couldn't get one vision together, and they didn't understand what the stealth thief genre was. You get subpar results, even if the game wasn't a complete flop. That's a lot of what the problem is. Back then, smaller industry, you had a lot of people where there were still the interplays. It wasn't as big of a problem because, first of all, the industry is all exponentially bigger today than it was 20 years ago. A lot of time has passed, and Bobby Kotick's another, how do I put it, way this leadership problem manifests is you have a common thing in economics and business where even if Bobby Kotick was useful as a leader and good when Activision was smaller, or even then back when it was Vivendi Games, he changed a lot as a person, and when it blew up to this gargantuan organization that got bought by Microsoft for $69 billion, he is not the same person. Success changed him, and he became useless and problematic.
Well, it's like when Erwin Rommel got promoted to was it Field Marshal or whatever, or like from what he was, Fairman, I can't remember. But like he was absolutely not the best general. Like he was a much better small command. Like you get people that are really good at managing a small team, and then they get put in charge of a big team, and all of a sudden they just can't handle it. Because there are different people, and that's a completely different skill set, right? I can manage my indie team of 14 people very well. If there was 10 more people, chat, it would fundamentally change everything. If there were 100 people, I think it would destroy everything I had created with the community and culture of our studio, the small tight-knit thing. The impact of change of time too is also a big thing. Look at the creators of Fallout, right? Tim Kaine thinks that the Fallout TV show is pretty good, but the problem is it's been so long since he worked on Fallout. It's been so long since he worked on anything that he's kind of just old and kind of just happy to just have something of relevance again. And so anything is now fine, and any sort of standard has eroded away. People change, sometimes for better or sometimes for worse, especially as time goes on. Who may have been, the rock star of the 2000s games market. Look at fucking EA, right? EA used to make, when I'd see their logo on a game, I was like, God, this is going to be a good game. This is going to be fun. EA Games, challenge everything. Wham! We're gonna play some generals. It looks like ass, but it plays really good.
Yeah.
It looks like...
You know what? I thought when I saw EA Kibble, I saw, oh, sports game. I could ignore this.
No, I never thought that.
What?
I saw EA
What
games
example?
for the Lord of the Rings fucking movie games. Oh my god, the Lord of the Rings movie games are fucking amazing. They had no right to be as amazing as they were. It almost felt like for a while there, whatever EA touched was gold. Now, what's interesting is, if you go back in time, EA was kind of shit. And then they got better, and then they got shittier.
You know what? And this is where I'm gonna disagree with you. That it wasn't that everything they touched. They just did a lot of things.
I'm not saying that it was. I'm saying that's like a frame of reference. It felt like that.
Because what they did, they took risks, did experimental stuff, and thrown that thing out. Wasted a lot of money, but also made a lot of money back, because there was a lot of the experimental stuff that was very good. Nowadays, this is experimental. Yeah, it's just guaranteed to make us millions and billions,
No. Okay, we're not doing it because they don't take risks. They only go with, let's remaster this. Let's make Call of Duty 7. Put Nicki Minaj on it. It's just corporate decisions. It's no longer just a thing about let's take a risk here, because taking a risk with stuff usually does pay up. It doesn't mean you can't make money with the other stuff, but it's just absolute unwillingness to experiment.
Insane Linguist donates 50 Checky bucks to say, see French casualty numbers during the first few months of the Great War. A reason why it's so high is because they refused to update the uniform since 1827. This is actually important, what you're saying there, Linguist, and what we were talking about with World War One, because why did I bring up World War One of all things when talking about the games industry? Like, you would think they have no effect, but the reality is human nature. Human nature is integral to the problems we're facing today. The lessons of the past are all around us. Even when it comes to corporate culture, we've seen them in war, we've seen them in peacetime, we've seen them with, movies, we've seen them with video games, we've seen them with food companies, we've seen them with the automobile industry. All of these things have already happened 1,000 times over and over again. And they're happening today. The only difference is we're not looking anymore. A lot of people aren't opening their eyes to what's all around us. We are surrounded by history. We live and we breathe it. All we need to do is look into the past and find the answers we're looking for to deal with the problems we're facing today.
Also,
and the reality
you need to be able to adapt.
is, yes, adaptability. The reality is
problem
talking
with
about
a big entity.
I know, but this is what I'm talking about. The problems we see today are problems our ancestors have had to deal with. Like, there's nothing new here. Nothing is special about this issue. This issue all goes back to human nature and the inability to communicate and the inability to understand what's at fault here, right? A lot, like, these executives are obviously at fault, right? All they need to do is, instead of following the footsteps of everyone that came before them and all these horrible mistakes, they could just simply open their eyes, look at the games, play with the people. Literally, go into a Discord community that plays Helldivers 2. Go into a Discord community that's excited for Ghost of Tsushima. Hear what they have to say, and you will learn so much. It's something that I maybe I'm spoiled in this regard. Because when it comes to you guys, Fairman and the tabletop team working on Terrestrial War, I can look over and see what people are saying. I can hear them talk about it after stream. I get bombarded by questions, and Spider Pig is so excited about Crubs, and he wants to have his own custom lord on a Crub, and it's like, well, that's not technically lore accurate, but there's a faction that can do that. And like, I feel bad because I too have been dismissive of others in the past, and probably will be again. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that right now. And it's like, oh, well, I need to stop, take a second, and realize that, well, Spider Pig really cares. He's interested. He's really passionate about the thing I'm making, and I should be grateful. And I am grateful. But sometimes it's easy even for me to not see that. And that's the big thing. Is you need to understand that people care about the things you work on. People care about Halo. People love it. And it's easy as a creator or a director or somebody who's kind of far away to kind of forget. Because it's sort of like, oh my God, what if nobody likes the thing I'm working on? And all I ask is that somebody just at least gives it a chance. And Spider Pig did. He gave it a chance. He loves it. And Spider Pig is what I've been searching for my entire life. People who actually like the stuff I make. And that's like, it happens sometimes. Because I was dismissive to him yesterday because I was trying to test something for a stream and I was getting frustrated at the thing. And I thought about that when I went to bed. Because I was like, I'd been so just like a little bit like snippy with him. Now I did get nice and like answer the question later, but I was trying to figure out how a game worked, and he was like asking me questions about the Crub, and I was getting annoyed, right? And this is all related to the same executive problem, because it's the same thing on a micro level, right? It's like you can get so caught up in something and be like, oh my God, yeah, well, he did care. And I was like, oh yeah, I know, of course there will be a faction that can, and the Astrians can't do that. He's like, okay, and he's just a happy little dude. But it's so easy to lose sight of that, and that's, I think, the big problem. Castus as executives playing games sounds too hard. It is in a way, right? Because it's hard to take a moment to listen. It requires a great deal of maturity to look at something and be like, God, I wish I hadn't said that, or God, I kind of regret saying that, because I say shit I regret to people, and then sometimes I never see them again because they got mad at me or something, and I miss them, and I think about the things I said, and I'm like, God, I wish I hadn't said that. You know, sometimes it's not. Sometimes some of those people had it coming. You know, but you know what I mean. Where it's like, God, sometimes you say something to somebody or like a good friend, and you regret it. And you're like, God, I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I hadn't said that. Because we're only human. We make mistakes. It's okay. Kips, turn off the fan. No, I need my AC on. It's gonna get hot in here.
You're allowed to have your fan on. I'm not. You know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna turn my
No,
fan back
you
on.
don't get to because I can't hear you. No. Yeah, a lot of
Germans
critical
aren't allowed to have fans.
But this is back to before we segue away from my point because I'm building around my point. This is all about communication. Communication is essential to success. Communication between the community, communication between the developers, communication between the publisher, and in the case of Ghost of Tsushima and Helldivers 2, communication with Steam. 4 parties. That's a lot of people. They need to be communicating with one another. The issue is Sony is not communicating with the players. Arrowhead is communicating with the players and Sony. Sony is communicating with Steam. Arrowhead is not communicating with Steam. And so it's like, you see the problem? The lack of communication. There's no like group call where it's like, hey, this is something, can we please get our game relisted on Steam? We remove the PSN thing. Or is it Sony being like, I'm gonna try the PSN thing in like 6 months when they're not looking and see if they forgot. Because
Honestly,
I banned it in all these countries, so no matter what, nobody's gonna play it anyways in there.
honestly,
You know,
I
like
can
that.
tell you one thing. Them just immediately doing this was a mistake. People are still riled up, and they're just going out. If they would have waited 6 months, they probably would have gotten away with it.
This is why communication is so essential. Because
No, it's important to remember this shit.
Yep. Halsey has been a member for 18 long months. And thank you for your long time support. He says, now imagine your company was publicly traded. And the things distracting you affect the lives of thousands of people. And you can be sued to death. Yep. I mean, it's something that distracts me, right? Because every day I have to be like, I need to stream and we need to make the daily quota. If I don't, I need to make the daily quota before the weekends. Because if I don't, who am I gonna fire? Who do I fire if chat doesn't donate? Like, that's something I have to think about, and I hate, like, that's why I have so many gray hairs now. I'm only like 29 and I'm fucking like an old man now. But like, I think about that all the time and I'm like, who goes first? Who's more essential than everyone else? Which one of them do I fire? And in what order do I fire them? That stresses me out so bad every day. Every day. And no matter how good we're doing a week, it's just there all the time. And I'm wondering if executives deal with the same thing, or if they even care. Because I know that a lot of executives, for them, it's like numbers on a piece of paper. But what happens when you know them? It's like, I know Bino. I know he's going through a rough time right now because there's storms in Brazil, and I hope he's okay. I know Indio, you know, he's working hard to get more commissions because he needs the money, right? And so does Alu. They need the money. You know, he's working hard, working the hours because he needs it. And it's like, well, what if I can't pay them? What if we don't make the call? Then what do I do? Sorry, we can't afford to pay you anymore. I know you needed that to, you know, pay your rent. But what now? And that shit, like it adds so much layers of pain. And then you add like community side, because it's something executives have to do with as well, right? If they care about the community, which they don't. But it's like, okay, like, is everyone happy? You know, is Halsey happy in the community? Is Insane Linguist, you know, is he mad? Did I say something that pissed him off? Is he never going to come back? Does he hate me? And did I fuck over the team because I burned like a bridge with somebody who was supporting us? That's something to think about too. It's a cake of shit, and you got to figure out which problem's which. And that's what we call my problem. But it's easy because a publisher and a developer or an executive has different layers of their shit cake, right? Their shit cake might not be the same. I don't want to worry about the community, but it might be like, God, I got to worry about the board investors. They got to be happy. Then I got to worry about the little developers I promised that we would do this thing. Like, yes, you can get your pet project through. But does that justify this? No. In my opinion, it doesn't. What it only means is that it means that communication is, again, the core issue. A lot of these problems with PSN could have been avoided had Sony had the foresight to communicate. But they didn't. In fact, they've shown no willingness to communicate at all, unless absolutely pressed. by the developers and the community together. The developers and the community had to unify in order to get the response, just a response, and a fleeting one at that. It took all that concerted willpower and all that effort just for that. Like, that's stressful, because it's like, God, we really do have to grind away at this. But we can't give up on it. We got to keep going. It's a cake of shit, and you have to figure out which side to start eating first. Yeah, pretty much. And these are problems that you have to think about all the time. Right? Whether you're a YouTuber or whatever, because it's like, you know, it's your livelihood, it's your living, and it's your community, and it's everything. And if you fuck it up, your life is over. I'm not going to become Todd Howard or Bobby Kotick. Don't even put my name in the same sentence. Have a little heart attack. Kib Howard.
It says yet. Kib says yet to lie.
It just works. Chat runs our game. Their computer fucking melts. Listen, that's terrible. But beyond the Sony issue, looking beyond it, and at the issues we face so far this month. Thank you for the gifted membership, Harlot. Wait, did we read everything? Yes, okay, we're got up. I got a little paranoid
now.
Yep. What was it? Yes. So, in recent news, I wasn't going to talk about this too much because it's not something I'm particularly read up on, but I recently saw that Microsoft shuttered a bunch of their studios. Now, when I looked at it, some of them I think had it coming, like the one that did that Redfall game or whatever it was called.
Arcane Austin.
Yeah, fuck that. That was coming. Cutting dead weight and things that are actually bad is good. But what's interesting is they cut studios that actually made things that did well. My question is it the EA case, right? EA did this as well with Dead Space. Dead Space did really well. However, it didn't reach EA's ridiculous expectations. It was just physically not possible. It's like horror genre does not appeal to like as many people as like a Battlefield title does. It's just they're not the same genres. They're not the same pools of possible, you know, market. Like, it's just not fair. And executives have this tendency to do that, where it's like, all right, this studio appeals to this niche, this corner of the market, and they do really good. But then, oh, what is that? Oh, sorry, I threw 30 on creams. 30 on creams, sorry. Why are you sorry? What? Why are you sorry? So we're at $30. Oh, good.
Okay.
No, you got it.
Damn Kib going gray already at 29 or 30. I hope with Sock and Fitness. Sock Fun, Fit Kibs. Very nice choice. Why are you saying sorry?
Yeah, don't be sorry. Thank you. Do it again. Do it again.
I'm sorry for making sure people can eat. I will never do it again.
But yeah, thank you for the donation, Stormwrap. Better Pick been a member for 9 months says, no worry, Kibs. I'm too autistic to take things personally. Thank God. I am on a move for the next week, and we'll have my 3D printer soon so I can print Arcane. I hope the Arcane statue turns out good. Remember, if you have any problems printing our miniatures, do report feedback, because we don't have anybody who specializes in doing supports. So the only way to figure out whether or not they work is trial and error. But we will make corrections. Baffios has done a great job. Deathless Soldier gifted membership. Thank you for the generous gifting of membership. And I appreciate entertaining Spider's Pig. I wanted to use an example in my great thesis on how evil corporations. Arcane's other games undersold: Deathloop, Prey, and Youngblood. No wonder they were cut. Yeah,
Prey
Youngblood
was
wasn't
sabotaged, and
good.
Youngblood was bad, and so was Vampire Game.
The Vampire Game was bad, yeah.
They deserve to die as a studio.
Now, how
As for
Oh, good.
Tango Studios, I'm trying to look for it, as there was a it's a Bloomberg interview where they directly asked one of the Xbox bosses, "Why did you close down Tango when Hi-Fi Rush is so highly praised?" First of all, it is only just to mention when they announced Hi-Fi Rush suddenly at one of their earlier this year, at one of their big Xbox awards last year, January. And there was no marketing. It was just, hey, this game is out. So they didn't market this game or let people know this was coming out at all. Now, Tango Studios' previous game, Ghost of Wire, which is a PlayStation exclusive, That was meh, but they did recover of, hey, we created a good game. Also, this is a reasonably sized studio that is very efficiently run. Before this closure, the studio head left. Then this happened. And the response that Microsoft gave to the Bloomberg interview person was corporate vomit. Where they say, oh, we have all sorts of things we want to look forward to. Which makes me at least raising the eyebrow at that had nothing to do with financial performance, especially when you look at some of its Steam numbers, at least reviews and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It has something to do with Tango. This is just my conspiracy theory, just to make it very perfectly clear, that Tango did not fully agree with a lot of Microsoft and Xbox's corporate culture, as Xbox is one of the top clients for Sweet Baby Inc. When you look at Tango Studios and their work, they may not, at least when you look on paper, will not mesh well. So it makes me suspicious, especially if the studio head leaving and complaining about, hey, my game didn't get marketed at all, and Microsoft just, it was as if we were kind of thrusted under the rug. Makes me suspicious that what was going on in the back end.
I mean, there's always a chance that someone's pet project didn't do well, and then out of sheer pettiness, they killed that studio because in their studio politics or in their company politics.
Yeah, because if you look at
Yes,
Tango
that
Studio,
happens.
if you look at, to go off Airman's point, Tango Studios got no marketing, yet Starfield got the entire, at least going from Xbox's statements, got the entire Microsoft and Xbox QA team on that, got all sorts of marketing, support, a lot of money thrown in it, and what did we get? A poor return on investment.
Yep, that's true. So corporate politics, because again, human nature, right? You have the right friends in the right places and you can go far. You don't, you get sabotaged. This happened to a movie called Treasure Planet that came out in the 2000s, where it was one of Disney's last hurrahs for the 2D animation side of their company. And they were eventually snuffed out by the CG people. And the reason why is because there's a lot of corporate bullshit into sabotaging the trailers, sabotaging its release window, sabotaging its advertisement. And this happens all the time, where, like, we don't want this to do well. Titanfall 2. I know some people say that it wasn't sabotage, but it was. Like, no matter how you look at it. Its release window is horrific. The game was launched between Call of Duty and Battlefield. Two titans of the shooter industry. It should have been moved to later, so that it could have got more window to breathe. Because if you release a game within a certain window, and especially in a certain genre, and there's somebody else coming out, it'd be like us releasing Legends of Terrestria right next to like Mass Effect. Both games are RPGs. They're not the same, but they're in the same genre, and so they're going to eat into the same market. And so one's going to be bigger because it has more voice than the other, right? We're going to get snuffed. Gone. Buried. This happens all the time with great games or good games that get released in bad timing. It happened with Sacrifice, it happened with a bunch of others where they just got released in a bad window.
Bulletstorm, one example that comes to mind, horrible marketing.
Yep, Bulletstorm is another one. Horrible marketing, where the game does better later on, or that one edgy shooter where you burn people with white phosphorus.
Spec Ops the Line.
Yeah.
Spec Ops Line.
God
Well,
damn, Squealy.
It was another cover shooter game in an already oversaturated cover shooter market.
Yeah. What was a fun inversion of this that I always like to bring up? People were going, "Oh, Witcher 3 is gonna get slaughtered because it came around the same year time frame as Fallout 4," and boy, did this went the other way.
That can blow the other way if somebody missteps, because Fallout 4 is universally received very poorly. Now there's a lot of revision or historical revision going on right now because of the Fallout TV show, where people are like, Fallout 4 is not that bad, and it's like, no, it's still kind of shit. It didn't magically heal itself.
See a pretty set, and all of a sudden it's a great show.
It's still a bad RPG game. It's not very good.
Can remember, being adherent to lore and having standards makes you a bad person.
See, Mr. Mackey, that's how little I know about that. He said, The Last Hurrah was in fact Princess and the Frog, a good movie. Never even heard of it. Never.
It was one of the last like 2D Disney movies.
Wait, is that the one? Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
That's great. God damn, that's tragic.
And honestly, I'm looking at this because they announced a new. What was it recently? They announced some anime people wanted forever. I think Furikuri was it. Oh, the second one, and it was all CG, and everyone was just going ugh, because not only was it ugly as hell, just this whole CG thing is just in general just I don't know. This is missing something.
Let's see. Nyatsu donates a generous $2 say, Kibbs, we need Austrian painters to become CEOs so they can violate Bafios's Polish border. Fair
No,
enough.
that would only work
Awful,
because that would only
terrible.
work for short term because they cannibalize the company. That would just the same thing because
You gotta be careful.
I could go into it because the whole economy growth that was on Hitler was not sustainable in the long run.
Yep, it was like a sharp boom, but the thing is, it wasn't gonna last. That's why it also started turning into just devouring the economies of other. But that's another thing, and that's even divisive there.
There's
people will
another
debate.
country that is on a very unsustainable curse nowadays, but I'm not going to mention that.
Yeah,
Which
stupid
one?
German. Now, Spider-Pig donates $2 say, I love Treasure Planet. I love recommending it. Treasure Planet was a great movie. The only thing that was annoying in that movie was the robot.
Was that the one? No, that was a Titan AE, which the children movie has a guy.
Oh god,
neck
yeah,
snapped
breaking
with
his neck.
blood.
Yeah,
the
so
entire movie was so fucking brutal.
Titan AE gave me neck breaking nightmares for my entire life. So like after that movie, I would forever like hold my neck whenever we're like on a ride. I was like, don't break my neck though. Don't break my neck.
See, I always had that thing when you had neck slitting scenes where I just all of a sudden lose my neck because it's just turtles.
It's like, it's
In
open.
Tiberian Sun, the Hassan execution scene. I remember playing this and immediately my chin just fuses to my chest. I was like,
Cut my
Don't
chin
like
in. Don't
no,
cut
no, cut my chin, not my neck.
Oh my god, terrible. Yeah, pretty
But yeah,
much.
Titan AE was the thing. I watched this and holy shit!
It was incredibly violent, yes.
And the noise.
Russia makes a good point. Russian says Western public.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, you go.
Yes, Russian says Western publishers are too busy trying to push quote the message unquote instead of trying to make money. Yeah, that is part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the problems. That's one of the problems Microsoft's going to be facing now because they're like, we're going to go down DEI, and it's like, okay, so I can write off all your games.
Yeah, because if you're just trying to make money, that is a workable relationship. Whereas I want this person that wants money goes, okay, I'm going to give you this because you're telling me this is what you want to give me money.
I mean, didn't they force that into the new Gears of War and Halo already? And it's just
They've already been trying to do that, but the problem with the new Halo, like, the thing is, there's a fundamental problem with both the new Gears and the new Halo that's deeper than just the DEI stuff. Because the DEI thing, like, you can get away with it if your game is good, but when your game is shit, now even the casual player who doesn't want to follow that kind of stuff, which I don't blame them, they're like, well, this game sucks. I don't want to play it.
The problem there is, as far as I'm concerned, also that they're creatively bankrupt. We need to bring back the locusts. The locusts are like, no, you're not. Instead of just Gears of War, okay, make it that you fight humans. Okay, fine. I'm fine with that.
Well, the problem,
Halo, maybe not as much, but
I mean, there's an underlying oh god. So it's more than just a corporation thing. If we want to get into the problem with Halo and Gears, because the problem with Halo and Gears is narrative direction.
Iconic.
Well, yeah, no,
berries.
It's not just that. It's narrative direction. They don't know where to take the story. As a writer myself, it's clear that Halo had no long-term plans after Halo 3. After Halo 3, everything was just sort of a fucking train wreck, and nothing really lined up. Yes, at the end of Halo 3's trailer, they show you the Requiem planet, but that didn't mean that they had any idea where to take it, as was evident when we saw Halo 4 by 343, and where Halo went after. Or in Gears' case, like after the human Lambent and Grub War basically ended or whatever, like they needed to like time skip farther forward or cover more of the the early war with the emergence day stuff, but they didn't. They tried to push the
that
timeline
would have
forward,
also worked, yeah.
and they pushed the timeline forward without having any clear idea of what to do. So what happened is, instead of having like a faction defeated and you got to do something new, it's the oh no, somehow the grubs returned. Okay.
Yeah. And
And
honestly, with Halo, they could have, what as far as I'm concerned, they should have just done Master Chief floated in space for thousands of years, and then he just it's this mythical figure, and he's just back. And you could have done something interesting with that, not just 5 years later he got found. Ah.
yeah, it was
I think the idea of we found it. This looks like the serial number. That's the chief, the Spartan 111. That's a mythical figure. It doesn't exist. That's just propaganda. No, it's real. That would be a lot more interesting.
I mean, that's one of the issues, yeah, because one of the big issues is just like, where do you take the okay, fuck. Let's just do a little bit of an analysis in Halo. I know some people might not be interested, but this is important because this actually is not just a limited to Halo problem. This
It's
affects
limited to
Star
a lot of
Wars,
things,
this
yeah.
affects Warhammer, this affects everything. Every setting has this problem. So, brief synopsis of Halo. Halo, humanity's fighting a war of extermination, or being exterminated by the Covenant, which is a conglomerate of alien races that are descending upon mankind to wipe us out because we are an affront to their religion, because our mere existence basically means the religion invalidates the religion, yeah.
Not even that.
And so,
it validates the prophet as the leader of the
moving
religion.
on, so the story is eventually humanity beats the Covenant, right? Whatever. So, but we fight this big enemy called the Flood, and it's like a big climactic thing, and they're like, where do we take the story after this? And they don't know. So in Halo 4, they just like, there's these Forerunners. The Forerunners are aliens, by the way, and they're like bad, and they're bad. Some of them are bad, but some of them are good.
They look like monkey people.
And you're gonna fight them, and you're like, okay, that's not really interesting, but we're gonna fight them. And then you fight them, but they don't actually kill them off in the game. They kill off the main character in a comic. And this is another problem with games and franchises where multimedia. So, okay, let's hold the multimedia thing on a different thing. So after that, they defeat the Didact, right? But he didn't really. Then they move on to the next game, and now it's AIs are rebelling. But then that didn't stick either, so they dropped both those story arcs, and now it's the Infinite, which is another new ancient threat. And then they dropped that. So they dropped all three of them.
Now, on that, look up, do you think they could done a Halo thing without Master Chief?
I just want to point out.
thing.
I just want to point out, 3 Halo games in a row, they dropped the main antagonist, and you see this in other settings like Gears 2, where they're like not really sure where to take it, or they double down on something, and they drop it because they can't figure out where to take the story. They don't know where to take the story. This could be a problem with Helldivers too, as well. By the way, we don't know. Like, we'll after we defeat the 3 enemies, is the galaxy going to reset? Probably, and then we'll get another war.
Return.
But are we going to get a 4th enemy? You know, or is it going to just be the same 3 things over and over and over again?
Or an amalgamation. Maybe not the bugs, but automatons and what's it called? Banded together or something. Or they Illuminates.
Yeah, because
I
like,
don't know the name. They just took over the automatons and then all their servers or something.
so this is something narrative I want to talk about real quickly, and this is important. It's called killing your darlings, right? And as a writer, eventually you're like, this faction was cool, and it's okay to bring back one old faction if they weren't truly defeated, and you do that once, and that's okay. But if you do like 30 times, it's like, okay, dude, stop it.
It's also a thing about characters. Look at worst offender, Star Wars. Everything
not just Star Wars.
Everyone knows everyone.
It's not just Star Wars. It's every setting. It's Warhammer. It's Warcraft.
One of the worst offenders.
Warcraft does this too, where it's like Thrall comes back again and again and again, and it's like, okay, or like nobody's ever really gone. Like Arthas comes back, Emperor Palpatine comes back, the Lich King comes back. Like nobody really dies, and it's like, it's because the issue is that these writers don't know where to take the story. They never thought past where the story should end, and like, well, this character's popular, so let's keep doing this character rather than building a new character. Or in the case of Star Wars, they made new characters, right? They're new characters, and then they tried to kill the old ones and basically castrate the old ones in front of the new ones. Be like, look at this new character and how much better they are than all the other ones. And that method also doesn't work. You can't just keep dragging old characters through the mud. Their stories must end. You can't write characters who are there like, I'm a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu. I can do everything you can do better. You know, that bullshit doesn't work.
I just remembered, because hindsight is 2020, let's just make some prediction for the new Mass Effect, because remember what they're gonna do with that one.
Oh God. Yeah, Mass Effect
Because they're
4.
bringing back
How many of the-
Shepard.
Yeah,
And they're bringing back Shepard as a playable character. I say, let Shepard's story end. If you want, because with the way have Mass Effect 3 ended, we go in with Reapers Destroyed. And you can totally play, because, okay, the enemy threat defeated, now we're going back to the squabbling before. Stuff with the Krogan, there was a lot of bullshit going on, and with the gate network disabled, you need to bring order back, because now this shit is just going back. What position is there for Shepard? Let him be the dead hero, okay. Let's say you need to bring him back. Don't make him the main character. Make him, let's say he's your mentor. His body is broken, he retired, whatever. He is the guy, he's taking the Captain Anderson position for Shepard. He is gonna be the leader and give us a new character. That is something you can do. You have reason to bring back old characters, but yeah, or just give us new characters. That is gonna be the hard one. The universe itself, I think, supports continuation of the story, because there's definitely a lot of political stuff in the background that allows for new threats and problems. Maybe not world-ending problems, but you don't have to have big, it's a problem of movie, big world-ending sky laser that kills everyone. It can just be small stakes, like, oh, this guy just wants to kill the main character's family. Okay, why? But no, because he just hates the guy. There's still stakes there. As long as I care about the character, I'm gonna care about this. It doesn't just need to be bigger. Just make it clever. And as with the Mass Effect thing, I can tell you this, even if we assume it's not gonna be like Andromeda, they're gonna go very hard on the member berries, and I think that's not gonna be great. And I'm not against them bringing Shepard back, but not in the scale they probably will be as the main character.
Yep, but the thing is, they gotta
Also,
move
don't
the
kill
story
him
on.
off in an unceremonious way, because it's also dumb.
Also, AC107 donates 10 Kaneki bucks to say Halo and Gears are examples of folks needing to let stories end. Also, kids missed my previous chat. It's Kibbs. Okay, he corrected himself. AC107. Hold on. AC107 donated 5 Kaneki bucks, and sorry about missing that earlier. Sorry. He says learning is hard, and it's even worse with the sheer hubris of the modern day. Well, hubris is not something that's unique to the modern day. I will tell you that much.
Yeah.
And thank you for your donation, by the way. I really appreciate it. But hubris is something that's existed historically always. The one big thing to remember is that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because the reality is yes, things look bad, and there's a lot of bad corporations. EA bad, Ubisoft bad. We don't remember all the bad things of before because we didn't know before. We didn't know about the interplay thing. It's before it became popular, before content creators really were a thing to report information, or people were sharing information like you guys share information with us and we share with you. Like, we help each other. You guys tell us things I didn't know. I learned things from you guys, and I tell you things that you guys didn't know either. But I feel like I learn more from you than the other way around, to be honest. But that's what I'm trying to say. And like, it's one of those things, like, I think the hubris is just human nature. And human nature is something that we need to actively work on improving. And we're flawed, and that's okay. But the big thing to take away is that we need to constantly stay active, and we need to be constantly proactive, because this conflict with making good games and making the industry a better place will never end. There is no solution. It will never end. And that's okay, because life is all about conflict. It's about, a struggle.
Conflict drives innovation.
Yep. And so it's just important to remember that. And it's okay if you get burnt out of that struggle and you want to take a break and you just want to decompress and play games. That's okay. Take the time to do that. Take the time to look after yourself. Take the time you need to decompress. Because guess what? We're all only human. And I don't expect you all to grind to your death. Just like I don't grind myself working on the lore for my game all the time. I take a break, because sometimes it's good to take a break. Relax a little bit. Don't go at it all the time. Occasionally touch grass. I hate that phrase, but it's important.
Why do you hate touching grass, kid?
Because dogs piss on grass.
Okay.
And I don't want dog pee on my hands. Now, Animate Acumen donates...
This is why kids don't drink water.
I don't drink water because of fucking
Fish pee in it.
No, it's Bill Nye. Bill Nye, the fucking science guy, said that this water could have been dinosaur spit. And ever since he said that, I looked at water and was like, I don't want to drink
Okay,
it.
fine. I don't drink water. Why? Dinosaurs spit in it. Okay,
Well,
fine.
it could have been
Same
dinosaurs. No,
argument.
it's not that they spit in it. It's that that water could have been spit at one point. Because water doesn't really care. Water is just an element. It just is what it is, right?
Pips,
Like when I
your
die, the
brain
water leaves
is-
my body. You know,
Your
whatever.
brain is special.
Like it's like Dune, you know. You're gonna be drinking kibs before you know it. Anime Acumen donates $5 to say a story can end. Doesn't mean you can't use the universe years later after the story. God damn it! I
Yeah.
was gonna say that when I finally got a moment to actually say my piece on that. But yes, hashtag Sockfun, hashtag Kib's Choice. Nice. Add that to black and white. Good boy. Yeah. Woo.
It's getting there.
It is. Now, thank you for your donation. But yes, let stories end in a setting, but you don't have to kill the setting, right? So Star Wars, you know, Anakin's story's over, Darth Vader's story's over, but they keep like bringing them back all the time because they can't
Bring
let
back
it
Kyle.
Me. You mean Kyle Katarn?
No, yeah, best Kyle.
Oh wow, best Kyle. Fuck.
I
you.
like shit Kyle over here.
Wow.
Listen, if your name is Kyle, I'm sorry your parents didn't love you.
Rip.
Whoa. I'm kidding.
Good night, little polyfish. Have a good sleepy.
Bye.
Have a good
But
one.
yeah, Star Wars, that's why I said it's good night, Polly, by the is the worst offender because they're just everything's great. Remember how Tatooine was the most unfindable, unknowing, and unimportant planet?
God, shut up, Fairbert. Yes. Okay. So this is a problem. This is what we call
Member
creative.
berries.
I know it's not just member berries. It's creative bankruptcy, right? So in Star Wars, for whatever reason, Tatooine is relevant in the prequels too, because Anakin's also from there. George
Makes
Lucas,
some
you
sense.
fucking hack. No, it doesn't.
No,
It's-
Anakin is from this, and they hit him at the one place where not complete asshole.
it's still
It's not a
stupid.
complete asshole.
It's still
still
stupid.
Yes.
It's stupid. It's stupid. I still think it's stupid because like Tatooine and A New Hope is like this shithole planet, right? Yet it's always relevant in almost every piece of Star Wars media. We're going to a desert planet. We're going to fucking Tatooine, or we're going to
Twice as a
Geonosis.
coincidence, 3 times as enemy action.
Yeah, it's definitely enemy action.
Yes.
Definitely enemy action.
And I can tell you,
And this
fucking
is
in the
this
sequels,
is creative bankruptcy because creative bankruptcy, they like Star Wars is supposed to be this big galaxy, but it feels like it's not. It's like got like 10 or 20 planets in it, and they always go to the same goddamn planet over and over again.
And I can guarantee you, in the sequels, the planet Rey is from Jakku. That was originally supposed to be Hoth, and they realized, no, we can't do that. Even they realized that is too much. Let's just make it another desert planet. It's basically Hoth, but give it a different name. That was supposed to be Hoth originally. I gotta put money on that.
Yeah, under 25 Polish bucks to say hate shake with joy. I don't know to tell you this, but the same minerals and carbon were made of is likely recycled dinosaur poo. No, I'm
No,
dinosaur
Kip.
shit.
No,
I'm
Kips, you're
di-
stardust. You're made out of rocks and stardust.
Yeah, I'm the son of the stars. I'm a son of the universe.
Literally.
I'm a child of the cosmos. Yeah, I like to view that view set a bit more because it makes me feel more godly and divine rather than like a steaming pile of crap. So
In reality, you're the recesses of the universe.
I am.
You're
He's
the
a
excess,
dandruff.
the
He's a
garbage,
dandruff.
trash.
He's planet Dandruff.
Planetary.
Planetary Dandruff.
Maybe life is just dandruff, and when all the other
Yeah.
planets look at Earth, they're like, gross, disease ridden.
It's like the planet talking. Oh no, you got humans. Oh, god damn it.
God damn it. And thank you for the donation. Very generous. Hashtag Sockfun, hashtag Fit, hashtag Morrowind. Wow, people are donating for us to play Morrowind? Chat, what are you
Been
doing?
doing it for a
No.
while, okay, bro.
Not that much.
Yeah, I hope you like wailing on an enemy for 2 minutes and hitting him twice.
If chat funds that, we're doing the co-op mod. I've said that many times because I am not playing that by myself because I know chat, you like these games because you have fond memories of them, but I was too young and little to know what the Morrowind was. And I guarantee you when I play it, I'm gonna be like, this is old, and you're gonna be mad at me.
He will
I
more than
love a
likely
lot of
play a
You don't get to
charisma
be mad.
character.
You don't get to be mad at me, chat. You don't
and
get to be
everyone else
mad
will
at
play
me.
combat characters.
You have
Morrowind
to
is a
be
game I never
accepting
played.
and tolerant of my opinion about your old games. You
But don't
need
we
to
have
be
do that in principle?
I need to talk to chat because if chat doesn't understand, they're gonna get mad, they're gonna get cranky, they're gonna get agitated. No matter what I do, they're always cranky. Arcane had a decent first game, then it was down to Goblin Town with each game after.
Arcane, the first game was Dark Messiah, wasn't it?
Dark Messiah was the first game?
I'm I'm not sure if it was. I know it was the first big game, but Dark Messiah was nice, and we never got in a game with a combat system like that.
Dark
And no
Messiah
Dishonored
is
doesn't count.
nice, but I will say that it kind of, like, it's a nice game, and I do think it's worth
H4.
playing, but I think it's a bit gimmicky after playing it
Yeah.
myself. Like, it's kind of just like kicking the video game. Like, kicking the
Well,
video game.
Yeah,
Like, you
Well,
kick,
it's like
you kick a lot.
They
You, like,
made
you kick.
Dark
it's like Dying
Messiah.
Light. It's like Dying Light.
They did Dark Messiah, Dishonored, Arx Fatalis, Prey, and
The most recent games were Redfall, Deathloop, and Blade.
Oh,
I don't think that even came out, did it?
Marvel Blade
good.
hasn't come out yet, but there are two studios. There's the main one is in France, and Arcane Austin. That was I guess a new studio that opened up that did Redfall and Deathloop, if I remember right.
oh boy, Redfall.
Yeah.
That was.
That looked bad.
It was a catastrophe. It was
I looked at that, and I was like, should I stream this just for the shit show? And I thought to myself, no. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Because I
No,
I have
sorry,
to-
correction. I have to
go
do a
ahead.
correction. Deathloop was made by the French studio. Arcane Austin made
Ah.
Redfall.
Deathloop was one of the games where I heard that there was a lot of hype and nobody talked about that game. I don't think that game was successful, wasn't it? It wasn't bad from what I've heard, but just very.
Also, thank you for the gifted membership, Harla Houtini. Really appreciate it. And for Rifford19. Love my little chatfish. All right.
Chris Johnson said CNC is probably almost 30 years at this
Pardon,
point.
how old is CNC again? It's about 2 decades, going on 3
I
almost.
think 1996 was the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, so Deathloop
about
sold
almost three decades old. Go ahead.
5 million, sold 5 million copies in 2 years.
But it has absolutely no cultural relevance because I don't remember.
What game?
Everyone
Deathloop?
Deathloop,
Yeah.
Deathloop, yep.
What the fuck is Deathloop?
It's the game where
Oh,
if you die, you have
yes.
to restart.
It's the game you have
But
to
it's
die and
not good.
restart. I looked at it and it looked like the concept sounded interesting, but then I looked at the art style and I was like,
Nah.
yeah, I know not to judge a book by its cover, chat, but art style and art direction is important. And if you don't have
If
a
you
good
find
art
the
style,
game not appealing, you don't find it appealing.
it
That's just one thing you can do.
visually didn't appeal to me.
It's like Dwarf Fortress, the original Dwarf Fortress, ASCII. I like the idea of a game like this, just... Oh god, the graphics just...
Yep, Russian
Oh.
Sundust says Arcane is still around making the new Blade game. Yeah, Arcane, like, I think their main studio's still up. I think it's just all the little, oops, don't take up, the little tiny offshoot studios got shut down.
Yes.
It's kind of what I
Well,
expect to happen
Lyon-
at Creative Assembly Bulgaria. I expect them to get shut down.
Well, they
Yes, yeah.
suffered 2 mass rounds of layoffs, so I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened.
Because, yeah, sometimes, like, when studios get big, they're like, oh, we're gonna get little sister studios, and the sister studio's like, yeah, we're gonna make games, and we're gonna work together. And then,
Usually
like,
they are the B team,
and
no,
then
the
the-
C teams.
I mean, the B team worked on Mass Effect Andromeda, and you saw how that worked out. Oh, boy.
Oh, I mean, we saw how Mass Effect 3 turned out.
Oh. Actually, Mass Effect 3 wasn't the B team, was it?
Not sure. I
No,
pretty
it
sure
was
it
the
was
primary
Rush,
team.
though.
It was. I mean, Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda's release are miracles that they even released. Because the development history, if you actually look at what was happening behind those doors, like, it was a nightmare.
Well, you know what they should do to revive things? Limited reboots. As in, Mass Effect 1 and 2 are canon, and we reboot from Mass Effect 3 and build properly. I'm all for that.
Limited reboots would be a nice thing, but I would actually prefer them to reboot from 1, not 2. Because 2 was
Yeah.
funny as nothing mattered in 2.
Yes. But the problem is, let's say you want to reboot. Let's say CNC.
The
we need to
issue-
establish
the one
Siberian
issue-
conflict
The
and
one
all.
issue I will say about a limited reboot in concept is really good, right? It's like Disney acquiring Star Wars and doing the Legends things, which is exactly what I always wanted to have happen as a kid. I was like, finally, someone's gonna clean up the mess that
Okay,
is the
you
lore.
got Thrawn.
And then you know what?
Thrawn, though.
They did. You know what they did? They decanonized everything, and then I just like did a backflip. Unlike Reggie doing a backflip. Rapier Kamigawa,
never
also
do.
known as El Chumba, gives 5 memberships. Thank you for the generous gifting of memberships, Chumba. The
When you
membership
get the
costs
fucking surname the. Okay.
I just added that because it felt fun. Animate Acumen
Someone
donates.
put in, yeah, Wormtown. If Wormtown
yeah,
was not okay, start
It's okay.
in Half-Life.
Okay.
Animate Acumen
Yeah,
donates
one-
$5. Say, I know you shouldn't judge her looks before dating her, but hashtag sockfun, hashtag kipshot. I mean, if it looks like a crack whore, odds are. I'm just saying, chat. You gotta like. People say don't judge books by the cover. We have this saying in the dev team. Basically where I say this all the time at nauseum. It drives everyone insane. It's like people judge books by their cover. And I say that every time in the dev server. You know why? Because everything we make has to look good. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, we're making a product. People are going to judge it by its looks. And so it needs to look good. Period. That's not up for discussion or debate.
And there's just the thing, there's so many people, fuck, even one of the people we know, just if it isn't in a certain art style, they just not gonna look at
Yep,
it.
that's
It's like
true.
with the people, this could, Helldivers. Basically, Imagine Helldivers would be just the most anime game ever. Art direction, gameplay, exactly the same. It wouldn't be as popular, because people just, anime,
Definitely judged by the cover. Yes. Like if I see like I look at a cover art and I'm like, I see like the LGBTQ flag in the background and I see like,
that's
the
a little bit
the
more
Israel and
involved, though.
Palestinian flag. No, I'm judging by its cover. No, it's as involved as it gets, Fairman. It's as involved as it gets.
Yeah, but this is a political thing. I'm talking art style and art direction.
Yeah, but that
Let's
bleeds
say you
in.
have a space game.
Hold on,
and all
that's
of the
not
ships look like
separate.
penises.
That's not separate. That's still related because it still bleeds in to art direction, and it has a role to play in art direction because, unironically, politicization, as cancerous as it is, affects art direction. The uglification of female characters and the basically not they don't make men look ugly in games, hardly ever. Men always look Chad.
No,
They
who
look
writes these games?
attractive and manly.
Chiseled statues, as I like to say.
Yep, and they're like shirtless and they got big old pecs, and then women are like fucking monstrosities that you'd see in
They
a
look like
dungeon.
men.
Right, they're either very attractive or very pathetic, the man.
Yeah, basically.
There's
And-
that very interesting thing. I seen someone talking about how girls and boys approach stuff like this. This probably plays into that.
Well,
But-
yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, we've seen how that works socially too. Like when women see attractive characters, like, oh, pretty, and they want to like play like as the pretty girl because they like being pretty, and you know what? That's fine. And men look at the games and are like, oh, she got big tits, nice. No. Look at that ass, aka 2B Nier Automata. See, Nier Automata, great music, a pretty good story, but it doesn't matter because people judge by the covers, and the cover was nice ass, and so nice ass, and you know what? That worked. It worked.
It's also a thing that sometimes you can get away with this, but other times you probably shouldn't. You probably shouldn't put tits and ass in a World War II game.
We can try. We can try.
Live
Hold
out
on,
saying.
hold on. Return to Castle Wolfenstein, the Nazi assassin girls in the leather.
Yes, but that is
Tits and ass.
more fantasy than it's more fantasy than anything else. It also has zombies, kids.
Call of Duty, World War II propaganda posters, pinups, on
But
the
they-
tits and
those
ass
tame.
on a bomber.
They are so they're so tame.
B-17, pinup girl on a bomber.
If you show a modern day pinup to a World War II guy, they probably say, "Good heavens, I can see her ankles."
Like, nice. I mean, it was like that one World War II guy where he found out he got turned into an anime girl, and he's like, "Does she have big tits?"
That's not true.
And he's
though.
like, they're like, "Yes," and he's like, "Nice."
That's not true though.
And then he died peacefully. And then he died peacefully, knowing that he had big tits.
He needed to know. He couldn't live without it.
Does she have the
Honestly, I
biggest tits? That was what he said.
I'm
Oh.
pretty sure that's not true.
Yeah, no, it is. That actually happened. You didn't know that?
No. I know of the story and I looked it up.
Okay, well, tell
From
me
the-
it, Mr. Smarty Pants.
From the looks of it, that was not what the guy said. That's just a rumor someone made up.
That's a good rumor. I like the
Is this-
rumor.
I like the rumor as well, but because I can
Now
totally
tell me
see
what
someone doing
happened
this.
then, Fairman. Educate us.
Apparently, the guy was not too happy because the entire thing felt more like mockery to him.
Oh, that sounds funny. This
I mean,
is
if you look at this from his side, those are people that fought and died on my side, and they're just getting used for as masturbation bait, which that specific thing was. So I can see where someone would take a little bit of umbrage with that.
But yeah, it's like, dude, that's me. Why are you jerking off to me? That's a weird
Yeah.
thought, you know. I can actually empathize.
And this is from a generation that is a lot more conservative with these things and just not very open about that, which is fine.
Less blood flow, critical thinking is always
I
good. Also,
actually,
thank you for the gifted memberships, AC107, in case we hadn't said that before.
Did.
Zenothium. What? You've already
Yeah.
been subscribed.
Maybe it's run out.
You probably fat fingered the button. Chubby little fingies.
Oh, he wants 2 months.
Fat fingered. Oh, there's Florial. There's Florial. Rwanda's on the list.
And yes, the daily goal is funded.
Oh, good job.
I was waiting for you guys to go through your tangent before I mentioned that.
Chatfish did it. Chatfish shall be rewarded. And there, silly little hat and boob window. Are you happy, chat? Is this what you wanted? Like, yeah. Save the games industry with tits. I'm saying. Okay, fair enough. No Terror was full nude pics on plans, tanks in World War II. There were. I mean, soldiers didn't care. Soldiers also
Yeah,
fucking
soldiers
like.
could have died at any day,
Yeah.
so they don't give a shit.
They're not worried about not looking at a naked girl. I'll tell you that fucking much.
Yeah. Especially back then, it was just.
Well, you're in one of the most gruesome wars in human history. More people are dying than have ever died before. Who cares? Who cares?
There's a reason why they let soldiers get away with a lot more things than you would normally expect. But
Yeah.
well, that's a topic I could go into in length.
The other crux of today's topics, though, beyond the Sony corporatist bullshit, is that Chatfish, how do you feel overall about the situation? How do you feel? Do you feel like Sony is actually gonna back down? You know, and that this thing is just, you know, just wait, it's gonna clear over? Or do you think that they're doing this with the country thing and they're not changing it because they intend to try a second go at it? Let's put it up to a poll, and I also want to hear how chat think. So, we're gonna write it. A second go.
I could give my opinion.
No.
Reggie, you could always do that. I don't know why
I
you
know,
asked.
but it's like while you're making the poll, because like you've gone on
Yeah,
to
go
me
for
this before when like giving my opinion when we're doing polls.
Well, that's
But-
only when it's like a decision on like a game where I'm like, don't
Yes,
fucking
yes.
muddy the water. Don't.
So
This is fine.
I have the feeling that they were already doing this, and they didn't know they were still doing it because they didn't have the communication of what's going on with Helldivers.
That is.
Like they were
certainly
planning to
an
do this
idea.
already, but they didn't foresee the event happening with Helldivers.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
is certainly an angle that would make sense because the
See,
thing we talked earlier, there's
what
such
a
a
lacking
huge thing
communication,
that's-
yes. But my
Yep.
biggest concern, I gotta say, is that I want that to be the case. I want that more than anything to be the case. That just because, you know, Steam is worried that Steam doesn't want to get sued, and Sony's really bad at communicating, and that this is just a miscommunication, and that they will have the game re-added to those countries. My concern is that I'm not sure I'm going to give them I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on waiting, but I am waiting for them to fix the issue, and I have waited, and they haven't said anything since last week, and I did wait. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. It's been a week, and now we're finding out that more countries are being added to the blocked list for restricting purchases. I don't think I'm going to allow the benefit of the doubt to continue, mostly because that we've given them that time. That they had a week to like address that concerns, and they haven't done it. And so for me, I don't think they're going to. I think that they're going to try again, because they haven't made a commitment. This has been banned in all these countries. They had a whole week to talk to Steam to reverse this. There really is no excuse. I don't care about the corporate bureaucracy and incompetence. That's not my problem. That's their problem. I gave them a
The
week.
question is, are they more stupid than they're greedy? Or how much more stupid are they than they're greedy? That's probably more
Now,
fitting.
Konoha also mentioned something pretty useful earlier. He said that they can't let it go because if they do, the JP users will have issues with Sony. Yeah, that's apparently something they're tied to. So the Japanese users have to have the Sony account thing. And so if they don't enforce it upon all of us, apparently that'll put them in conflict with Japan's user base, meaning they'll be liable to be sued by them. So Sony, I think, is actually stuck in a situation where they actually
Catch-22.
yeah, catch-22, where they have to do it, and they're hoping that we'll just forget. That's what it looks like to me, and that's what this country list means to me. Exactly what you said, and thank you for saying that, and I'm sorry I didn't actually comment on that earlier, Konoha. I just we got wrapped up in the conversation, because you had mentioned it earlier, and it was a very poignant point. But yeah, no, so like, I think that Konoha is honestly right here. I think that he's definitely nailed it on the head. And that's my fear, is that you're absolutely correct. And it kind of, so far, all the evidence we've seen thus far suggests that you're right. Even though I really wish you weren't. And that's why I'm concerned. Because I think that they're going to try it again. They may not try it with the PSN thing with Ghosts or Helldivers 2 or something, but they might try to sneak something in.
I think the Helldivers ship has sailed on that part.
Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And the Helldivers 2 devs have also been saying, like, they've been communicating, but they have no idea what's going on with the country ban thing. And they've been trying to get it resolved. Honestly, the Helldivers 2 devs, Arrowhead Studios, has been the biggest Achilles heel to Sony. And thank God for that.
Because they do not like to play nice with this kind
Well,
of
the
bullshit.
benefit of Arrowhead is that they're not touting the party line, which, if I'm to be perfectly honest, I imagine Sony is not going to take well to that, and they're going to be punished in some way, or PlayStation is going to find a way to get back at them. Because, make no mistake, like I mentioned in the previous stream, PlayStation does not like Arrowhead. Not after what they did. Not after what they said. Not after they basically challenged them. Not after they joined us in the revolt. The only reason why we won was thanks to Arrowhead. Because I'm pretty sure if Arrowhead didn't side with us, they were content to let it just roll. But having their own studio rebel, and publicly so, with all this attention to it, my fear is that they're waiting for the attention to disappear, and then they're going to make their move, and then they're going to start to remove the problems. Grumpy says, here's my thought on the subject. Will they try again? I think they very much want to. But this is a barometer moment. If we can get people to stick to their principles, it may swing in things in the future. Yes, this is my biggest concern. We don't really have a big enough reach, honestly. But some of you guys have more reach than I ever could. Because you have friends. I have friends too, now that I think about how that's
Now
what
Kid doesn't have friends. Wow.
No.
How things have changed, I
But,
suppose.
but what you can do is you can try to, persuade your friends if they're interested. Tell them about this, stuff, You don't have to show them my stream or anything. You could just talk to them about it.
Good if you want.
I mean, it'd be good for viewership, but honestly, do what you think is best. And honestly, I think that the better thing is not to be like, go watch this loser talk about it. You're better off just going and talking to them.
Losing.
Yeah, no, I'm demeaning myself so that I'm propping them up. So the thing here is, you guys have more sway than I ever could or ever will with your friends. And so you guys can potentially convince them, and then they can convince them, and like a ripple effect, you'll have more influence than I ever could. So you guys are the real heroes here. They fired the one CM that sided with the players, but didn't even suspend or yell at the ones who were inflammatory and hostile and threatening and shit. Says a lot. I thought they demoted them. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Sturmat donates
One was
$25.
promoted, one was fired.
Yeah, because that's what I heard, too. Sturmat donates $25. The The big thing is the guy who got fired, like, the reality is you can't say that and not be fired. But I still wish he hadn't been fired. I would have reprimanded him, because yes, after he said that, you know, he has to be reprimanded no matter what. That's
It could be a thing to appease Sony. So no, it was just this guy. But
it could have been. He was put on the altar, but you know, that's just the thing. Like Spitz, in my opinion, didn't really deserve the firing. There was other people who I thought deserved it much more. But Spitz also laid himself on the line. And sadly, you know, he got run over. Sadly. Happens. I just hope that, you know, he gets a job. It sucks. Sir Matt $25 say, I think it's miscommunication, but we will see. I now have the game and might be in a problematic place for reasons I can't say. They better back off, sigh. Half-Life 1, hashtag Sockfun, hashtag FitKibs. And why is female still here? Kib, why is female still there? We're leaving it there for now. Mostly until I find a better changing software, because chat likes that as a meme. We're not elaborating on this stream. We're not elaborating. It's a dumb thing chat paid for.
Damage your perverts. It's simply how it is.
I don't think you have to worry, because I don't think they're going to ban you from playing. I don't think so. And Carlos is bound to.
That would open them up for a
Massive
lot of legal action again.
I think a class action lawsuit. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a legal expert.
Especially, wait a minute. I need to check something, because I think Latvia and those are in the EU now, and that means if they fuck with them, they have the entire EU going after them, which, to their credit, is actually something they do. So they're very aggressive on the whole customer.
Yet again, this is only
Right,
underlining one of our further points, though. Japanese corporations are the biggest problem here, and Japanese corporate laws, because this whole PSN thing is because Japan. This whole region locking thing is because Japan. Like, Japan is the biggest Achilles heel when it comes to the games industry, and unfortunately, you know. Go ahead.
Are you sure though?
Pino, what are you doing?
I'm asking if you're sure though.
Yes,
Because,
without a doubt.
the Sony brand, like as a whole, is in Japan.
No, they're headquartered in Japan. Like,
yeah,
that's
but,
the thing. Nope. The thing is, the whole thing ties back to Japan. You missed the early part of the stream, so you're a little late for that. Like, the reason why is exactly what, oh gosh darn it, his name slipped my mind. It's not Jeremy. It's some of the Hona. God, you're new. I can't remember. Chat, help me. Who is the guy? Sound off. You're the guy who basically informed me about the Japanese laws that are basically making this a problem.
It was Blake who talked about the.
It was not just Blake. It was
no,
another
no,
person who talked
that was
about the
not
real
Hona.
deal. What? What'd you get? What's his name?
Oh, no.
What?
I'm pronouncing it right.
Rahona?
No, Oha. Conoha.
Kanoa.
Or Kon. Yeah.
Kanoa. I think it's Kanoa. I'm trying. And thank you and for that earlier comment. But yeah, no. It's entirely on Japan. Like, they are I think gonna be the thing that drags this into being a further problem. Because Japanese law requires it. And if the Japanese player base has to have it, but the Western player base doesn't, that's going to open a lawsuit. And so the PSN issue is going to become a thing because Japan. Japanese corporate law and Japanese corporate bullshit has basically got them in a catch-22 situation where they're fucked. And so are we. So, if that's true, which means that the only reason why they're delaying it is because of the Japanese bullshit. I'm keeping my review flipped for now. But the minute I see that this is, or I'm keeping my review where it is now. Might change later. I'm willing to change it at a moment's notice. Because it really doesn't take much to push me over the edge. Death donates $1. Thank you for the donation. Animate Ackman donates $5. Unrelated note. Where's those refund procedures? No reason. Honk honk. Hashtag sock fun. Hashtag Gibbs choice. Thank you for the donation. Very generous.
very generous, very powerful.
Japanese law versus international law. Yes. I mean, that's basically what's happening here, right? Because you have EU laws and international law, and you have like United States, and so Sony is for the first time forever having to sell their stuff in basically a global market that isn't controlled by Japan anymore. I mean, they have to actually play by
I mean,
Western
don't they have to do that for a
rules.
few decades by now?
Yeah, they've started doing it recently, but this is the first time it started to blow up in their face because it's finally catching up to them. This is their first. The big reason is this is their first multiplayer release.
This could also play into the whole that the XX and Japan do not care for the non-domestic market. There's products that made 10 times the money in the Western market than in Japan, but since in Japan it did not make the money they prospected, that would consider it a fail and got cancelled anyway. Because they are very weird with how they value with the
I mean, Japanese are harsher on censorship than we are. They're also incredibly harsh in general to developers because of their zero bullshit. Because I did look at that a little bit, and like Japan is up there next to Germany. They're bad. They're on the naughty list.
I wouldn't even say it's an entirely censorship thing. It's just that as far as they look at the Western market, that one doesn't matter. 10 million from the Western market, 1 million from the Japanese market. Yeah, the 1 million from the Japanese market count more than the 10 million from the Western, because, of course, not for all companies. Just there's some weird shit with how they look at the money they get and where it comes from.
No, they're still based in Japan. Insane linguist. We looked that up earlier.
They are a Japanese company that has gone international because they have a place in New York and they have places elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. The issue is they're in a quagmire now because they're forcing the Helldivers 2 players that are Japanese to do the PSN thing, but not forcing the Westerners to do it.
The best outcome of this whole scenario would be if not only Sony but other companies that do this kind of stuff kind of like stop doing it. Like,
oh no, the other companies will still try.
Yep, Pondazen says thank you because I couldn't remember what it was, but I know it wasn't their main thing. Sony's entertainment HQ was moved to California.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say.
But not their actual headquarters.
Yeah.
That's a subsidiary, basically.
Again, the company does not all of a sudden become Californian.
No, it doesn't.
California.
It's based in Japan. Is the issue. Yes, some of the subsidiary stuff and the little underling things have moved to other locations, but the primary basing is in Japan. Anime Document donates $5 say, I'm being asked if someone has a link to those Japanese laws. Hashtag Sockman, hashtag Kib's Choice. Not on hand, no. And I'm not familiar with Japanese law, and nor am I a lawyer. I am going to say that so that nobody makes any assumptions here. Yes, I was a former anti-piracy agent, and I worked on copyright protection stuff. No, I was not a lawyer, because it's a big distinction that people sometimes forget, that those are two different fields of expertise entirely. Piracy protection and prevention is an entirely different field.
Gibbs was basically the guy that looked at the picture, looked at the other picture, like, are they the same picture?
That and other things. Are they the same picture? Yeah, that actually is sometimes what I had to do.
Yeah,
I had to compare them, is this different enough to justify itself, or is it not? Or I had to do things like, okay, is this the right course of action? Do we suspend this channel, or do we not? Do we reach out to them, or do we not? Is this potentially an accident? Could this be a PR disaster? And often the case was to always, if it was somebody that didn't look like a bot, or somebody that was just outright stealing stuff, the answer would be, I'd just contact them, but hey, you're not supposed to post that. Can you please take that down? Otherwise, we're going to have to take action. I'm like, okay. And then they take it down. It's like, problem solved. Problems. But the issue is that we're humans, and it's far easier to automate that than to have a human go and contact people. And so what they do now is they just have bots. And so I got replaced by machines. The machine just bans people and just gives them strikes anyway, so much for that. Hashtag I was the good one. 180X is subscribed. I can't read the rest of your name, but thank you for subscribing. Because I don't read that language. Japanese developers complained they suddenly had to talk directly to California when they flipped. I'm not so sure about that because I hear too much conflicting stuff. We're not going to delve any more into that. They didn't, and yep, the Scat Francisco. Too sleepy for parley squeaks. Wake me when we're review Obama-ing. What? When we're review Obama-ing. Obama-ing.
Review bombing. What he needs to say.
Okay,
But he wants
Obama.
to be silly with it.
He wants like, wake me up for this quickest time. Okay, brother.
Kano says, the PSN just not for Helldivers. It is for the PS4 plus PS5. And it was for collect information, so when JP users raise issues, Sony said this won't be an issue and it will apply for everyone who uses PSS. Yes, that's the thing. The worst part is a lot of this stuff is in development as it's happening.
According to just a quick Google search, Sony Entertainment is the umbrella entertainment division of Japanese multinational conglomerate Sony Group Corporation, and managed by its American subsidiary. It covers film, television, and music.
Yep, which is exactly what we thought. And yes,
Not games.
when it comes to corporate stuff, some people will have to report to the California thing, and the Japanese side will complain because they don't want to report to that. It's corporate bullshit, is what it is. I've worked for and with a mega corporation as an anti-pirate vendor. Like, that was my job for a while, and I can tell you that this shit happens all the time. Where something will change in corporate, and like you'll have to communicate with somebody, or like they just don't give a shit. And it's absolutely, it's just fucking retarded. It's all sorts of dumb. And like, you got to go from here to there before you have to talk to this person, the VP of that, and then you got to move to this person who's just, in charge of distribution. And then it's like, nope, we got to talk to legal now. It's like, oh, and so you got to run from people to people to people to people. It moves. It moves. Chaffish. What are you gonna do with you? Stop calling it Scat Francisco. That's gross. It's true, but it's gross. I don't like that name. Makes me uncomfortable.
Would you prefer Toilet Bowl of America?
How much for you to live there for a year, Kip? So like we.
A lot. A lot more than anyone has. Now, if you want to enforce your PSN account stuff on console users, that's par for the course. The problem came when they tried to push on the PC players. Yeah, so this is the part of the development, of the new development, that I'm not entirely sure of, because it sounds like the PlayStation players will still have to do it, but the PC players won't. And I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work legally.
Yeah.
But I think that's... What do you want, Peter?
I wanted to add this on the last stream, but like people forgot about me and I died of old age. And
I died of old age. We didn't actually. When we were about to move you in, you were gone.
I was going to mention like there's one theory that I had that like in the future they would like use the excuse that they were using money for the servers to make people that were have to pay for PSN Plus, even though they were playing on PC, because but I'm playing on PC, yeah, but the server is on Sony side, so you need to like pay PSN Plus so the server can have like help being on. You get what I mean? But that was my idea because like because years ago no one believed that you would be forced to pay to use like online stuff on console on video games, but like that became the norm, and like so that. I thought they were like push one step at a time to slowly do that. But like Teddy also told me that another reason they might be doing it is because they get a lot of money from selling data from people.
Selling data
stolen from them.
Yeah, the data that gets stolen from them, yeah. But like I still think that like in the future they would use the excuse that not enough people are buying the game or buying Battle Pass, so you guys need to pay PSN Plus. And there's a lot of PC players.
There's a lot to the issue. The more we delve into it, like it's the fact that they don't have their account numbers are down. and they need to make them look like they're going up for their fucking shareholders. And there's the issue that the PlayStation doesn't really have a lot of games at all, and so it doesn't really have a purpose or an existence, and it's having a hard time justifying its existence.
And you're seeing this in some of the investor reports also. The return on investment numbers keep going down. I mean, they shot up initially because hype, new console, but it is not returning, and they're starting to suffer the Microsoft problem of they just don't have good games.
Yep.
I mean, the joke of PlayStation has no games.
Well, the big problem is these big corporations are buying up studios, and then they buy up these studios, and then they fucking run them into the ground, and then they're like, why are they not making good games? Because they're micromanaging the creative aspect. This is a big thing I remember my uncle talking about a long time ago, where the God, I think it was him. I can't remember, so long ago. Hold on, don't interrupt. So the big thing is the creative sphere, right? Because in a studio like Black Isle, you have the creatives that would be working on like the Fallout game, or they want to work on this game or something like that, or want to work on Fallout 3. But then there was the publisher or the executives, and they'd be like, no, you're gonna work on this, and no, Fallout's not gonna do very well, and so they didn't give it any funding, and so it just kind of got made, and it was kind of shat out, but it did very well, and it was very unfinished. And so you have a war inside these things where it's often the executives, the suits, versus the creatives. And the creatives are not perfect either, by the way, because the creatives have their pet projects that leave things off a cliff. Like Hideo Kojima is pretty notorious to that, where he has this vision and they gave him a blank check, and then he absolutely face planted because he didn't really know what he wanted to make, or what he wanted to make wasn't what anybody wanted. And so that was what happened with Death Stranding. So, well, some people enjoyed it. The vast majority of people, when he got that blank check, didn't. And so all that money, because when you give a blank check, that's a lot of fucking money. And they're expecting big returns. And when that doesn't happen, they're like, well, fuck. No, well, fuck.
Yeah, your ability to raise capital is going to go down.
If I may interject on the why it blow up into Sony's face. And I'm not trying to dig on console players here, but I think trying to centralize it's easier for console players to accept, because that's basically what Sony tried to do. Because console players are just, you have the Sony thing of what Sony says go. On PC, you don't have this. So PC players are a lot more, it's a stupid word to use, but individualistic. And if a company comes in and you are now forced to do this because you don't have any other choice, the PC goes, no, I don't. So this is probably why Sony overestimated this, which probably comes back to the Japanese thing, because a lot of Japanese companies don't really do PC games either, because that's just,
yep.
I don't know why, but
well, the culture's always been on consoles for a large time, thanks to Nintendo and thanks to Sony. Those two corporations are mostly responsible. Because remember,
they make up 66% of the.
And Sega was also based in Japan too for a while. So 3 of the great fucking like legacy game companies that made consoles came from Japan. Sega,
Konami
Nintendo.
Well. They were very big back then as well.
Konami,
I want you
like
to understand
ones.
how much the DS actually affected the way games were made in Japan. Because the DS and how it functions was also something that just was very ingrained with how the Japanese view gaming itself.
Yeah? What was so special about the DS in that regard?
You can take it with you. Anywhere.
So just a mobile thing then, yeah.
Portability. I mean, that's why the
PSP
Switch became a thing too, and the PSP's creation with the PSP and PSP
fight me
Vita.
on this if you want. I'm saying, and
you have to
I'm
understand,
not, I
in
have
their
no...
culture, they don't play games on computers. They use computers for work.
Yeah.
It's for work.
That's sort of changing slowly though, as PCs become more accessible.
Yeah.
Because I do know that economically Japan has not been doing as well, and that consoles have played a big role in entertainment because not many people can afford a high-end PC in Japan due to the economy situation, which might all be tied back together. It's weird how deep this rabbit hole actually goes when you think about it. Also, Animate Acumen donates $10 to say, in addition, same person asked what Japanese player base. Sony's PlayStation ditched Japan, and Japanese gamers don't care about the PS5. Not my words, I must stress. That's okay.
I mean, they have
but they do
Gungan
care.
Mobile.
So the gacha mobile market, it's huge. You can't say what Japanese player base when it's entirely based around it. Like, yeah.
But Sony is not on it. Though.
Sorry, what?
Like Sony kneecapped themselves in the foot. In
Yes,
Japan.
they kneecap themselves, but like when it comes to it, the market and corporate culture is much slower to adapt than anything else.
Mhm.
Bureaucracy is one of the biggest Achilles heels of these big corporations. It's why the pill that corrupted them all, with the sort of woke pill, is finally going down and hitting the Japanese market. You saw that with Forspoken. Like, Japanese companies, like we said, were always going to become woke. It was just a matter of time, because corporations emulate, and especially Japanese ones, emulate the West, but they're incredibly slow because they're very bureaucratic. It takes time for things to be adapted and like come over, and so that just is a slow transitional process. It's happening right
It's
now.
money.
Oh, Steve Invest donates 50 Danish kroners to say, Kibbs, it's time for your catnip. Milk and litter break less than 20 minutes before next stream. Hashtag Reg do a backflip. Yes, we'll be streaming the new Homeworld 3. It just came out. I hope it's not bad. If it is, I'm gonna be sad. I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's good. I hope it's good, but I'm scared. Cautiously optimistic. But the PS is a lot more user-friendly because most apartments come with cable for TVs, and PS just needs to plug, so they are more common, says Kanoha. That also kind of checks. Consoles are
That's
just...
the thing we talked
Consoles,
about earlier.
yes. Consoles are a bigger part of culture in Japan than PCs are in the West, or versus the West, because the West is
Ease of
slowly
use is
shifting to
certainly
PC.
An argument.
But it is slowly shifting, and I want to point out that a large, I'm not sure if it's a majority still, but I think it's a large portion, probably is a majority if I had to guess, still use consoles to this day, because
It's probably also a thing that
they're easy for users who are casual users, right? You just buy the thing, you plug it in, you connect it to your internet, and then it more or less takes care of everything for you. It's like Mac, right? Because Mac was
even
that way
boomers
too.
can use a console.
Because Mac PCs were just, or Mac PCs, not PCs, Mac
Or
computers are just like, they're pre-set up. There's no customization.
Plug and play.
They plug in more or less play. Though the plug and play thing is slowly disappearing as time goes on. There's more.
I mean, it's also
it's
kind
plug,
of disappearing with consoles.
download, and then play.
If you notice it, I don't know if it's just me, but I noticed that has been a downward trend on PC gaming in games that you can play just with the mouse and keyboard. A lot of them have been favoring the controller lately.
Well, that's okay, Sturmrat. Sturmrat says, I think I'm jumping into one of the buckets since I get angry when corpos who make good games make bad decisions and act evil. Yeah, that's fair. And remember, do decompress chat, like, from the news stuff. Like, yeah, sometimes things are down and things are bad and they look bad. But don't let that drag you down as people, guys.
There's nothing to be gained from getting raging mad.
Don't let that ruin your day. If you need to take a break, go ahead, head off, play some games, have pizza, whatever, watch a movie, cartoon or whatever. Don't let bad news drag you down, and because these podcasts aren't always going to be sadly happy. This one was supposed to be, and then this happened. So, because originally I was going to talk about something completely different, but I moved that to next week, so I'll see you next week.
Before you continue this, Kip, should you start, because we don't have that much, should we start bringing people in, or?
If there's anybody who would like to actually have something to say, we can have a caller moment, chat. Now, this will make the next stream a little bit late, but we'll allocate about 30 minutes. So if you want, go into the kib-sized bucket and you can say your piece. Now, bear in mind that you have to have been around for a while, and your mic can't sound like potato, because you'll blow out my eardrums and then I'll be deaf.
And Bino, the reason why some of the games want a controller.
Like this.
Let Reguline say his piece.
And Bino, the reason why a lot of those games want a controller is because they're ports. They were not made for keyboard and mouse to begin with. They're ports.
Yep.
Oh god, I remember bad PC ports with shitty implement.
Mm.
Oh god, original
mean,
Resident Evil 4.
I will say my
ports on
idealistic
PC.
hope going forward is that PC games become more prevalent globally, not just in America, not just in Europe and in Western nations, but globally. Because the more of the console players that, because I hope consoles just become like that. Like it's like, you know, the Alienware brand, which is trash, but you know, where you buy an Xbox and it's like, this is a baseline gaming PC. It's not the best, but it will run everything, guaranteed. You know, something like that.
In that regard, did any one of you guys ever play the Resident Evil 4 PC version? Not the remasters, original.
The what? Sorry.
The PC, Resident Evil 4 for PC.
Oh, the Resident Evil 4
anyone ever play
PC
that?
remake.
No, original.
I did. It was awful.
It's awful.
The port's terrible.
The controls, and the worst thing is even the graphics. It's work bad. Where you just go, how? It's a GameCube game.
I wish I had played the GameCube version, because I bet the GameCube version is better. I will say that the remake for Resident Evil 4 is fucking... I've played that game like 4 times, or 3 times, I think. And I love that game. That was very fun. I love that game. Just like Dead Space. Dead Space remake, I played it like twice now, I think. But I think we'll have to play something else come October. Because you can't just keep playing the same game.
I have a game. Yeah.
Does my mic sound like a potato to you, Kips? I mean, your mic can be okay within reason, right? It's just as long as I don't go deaf. As long as
Tips, I know a game you should play. You should totally play this new game called Helldivers.
I actually really like Helldivers too. And I sincerely hope they don't ruin it for everyone. Because that's my concern, and that's one of the reasons why I got back into podcasting. Because originally, when I first started podcasting, I was covering Total War, and it was the big thing that got me first started and getting into being known by anybody was literally the Total War Warhammer Chaos DLC, where it's like you take the most integral faction in the setting, the big bad, and then you cut it out and you make it a paid DLC. Like, why? Like, it's like cutting out. It's like if you make a Star Wars game. It's like if you made Star Wars Battlefront, and you cut out the Empire as a playable faction. It's like, what? Half the game is gone.
It's so dumb. But it's not like this is a new thing for them. Or an old thing. And they haven't learned that lesson. Most definitely not.
The thing is, like, the smart developers ditched Sony years ago. The smart developers are mostly dead. There aren't any smart ones hardly left, because they're all tied to some mega corporation here or there. It's either Sega, it's either Sony, it's either Microsoft, it's either Nintendo.
Or they're gone indie.
Ubisoft. Most of the ones I'm talking about can't go indie. They're too big. Like the only thing that's gonna happen is they're gonna implode on themselves, because most of these developers are too big to go indie. They won't survive the transition, because they're not set up to survive by being indie.
Which just puts a point for my argument that you should just stay lean and efficient and not just bloat.
Well, it's not even necessarily that they bloat. It's that you take a team of 80 or 60 people, and now you're on an indie budget. Well, who the fuck is bankrolling it?
Yeah.
Like, who's dumping money into it? Like, I dump everything that chat gives me into my studio, and we can barely support like 10 people. And we make a lot of money for a little YouTube channel, I want to point out. And it's a struggle. So, if you're talking about a team like 60 people, and they're not working part-time, they're working full-time, and they're also like industry professionals, ouch.
Star Citizen.
Yeah, Star Citizen.
We're not talking about scams, though. Or am I not allowed to say that?
I mean, it looks like a scam. When I look at it, I think that. I hope it's not. I hope it turns into a good game. But
do watch out if you say that, by the way, because they will try to cancel you. The fanboys of that game are absolutely
that's
horrible.
I mean, if I invested that much money, I'd be dedicated. You know.
It has to be good. It's like Star Wars fan. No, it cannot be bad.
It's gotta be good.
To be good.
I mean, I hope it's good, but I'm not getting my hopes up.
Good Luke Skywalker.
I'd rather be skeptical, and then wait till it launches and be like, "Oh wow, I was wrong. Thank God."
In 20 years.
I hope not. But you might be right, sadly.
Remember, you needed ice cube physics, and when you lay on the bed, there needs to be an indentation. That's important.
The chatfishies must wriggle and writhe.
Well, there's one.
Oh my God, there is one. Let's bring in our first caller. All right, we're like a radio now.
Shut up, kid.
What?
It's just Spider Pig.
It's just Spider Pig. Don't say it like
Spider
that.
crab.
That's just mean.
He should rename himself
Damn.
Spider
No,
Crab.
no.
Welcome, Spider Pig. What do you have
Hello.
to say about today's debacle? It's not really debacle. You know what I mean? I just like the word.
Sorry, I was getting echo off the stream. I didn't realize I was going to get plucked right away. Basically, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you've had to say. I think a lot of this also, though, comes from the whole death of history, or not death of history, end of history mindset of the 90s and early 2000s, where a lot of people and companies just thought that, oh, we don't have to look at the past because we're at the end of it all. And everything, you know, line's just gonna go up, infinite prosperity, democracy, everything's gonna be great.
That's just a retarded mindset.
But it was a mindset that existed during the 90s and early 2000s. It didn't really end until, and I honestly think it still pervades in a lot of corporations, because it really didn't end, at least from a people looking at history standpoint, it really didn't end till well into, like, I would say probably 08, 09 is when it started to fall apart with the whole Great Recession and all of that, but a lot of the people coming out of college at that time, that is what they were taught. If that makes any sense.
Oh, it does. I mean, the big thing is yes, I think the recession and the housing market collapse had a role to play on the industry. It did have an impact because you can kind of feel it echo throughout the industry, because at that point there was also a shift in the industry around that point too. I can't remember exactly, but at that time it was hard to
What
notice.
happened was you had a lot of smaller studios that were no longer financially viable.
Yep, there was a lot of tiny studios because that was the 7th gen age, basically, where there were so many games coming from these little fucking no-name studios, and some of them were fun and interesting, like Toy Box games or whatever. They made the Battle Engine Aquila game that I really like. That was a no-name studio that made this one-off game and then poofed, if I remember right.
I want to add something to what Spider Pig said earlier. I was talking to a guy that works in finances in the West some time ago, and he told me there's a thing called Make It to Friday, when the companies that deals with the stock market, because something about the stock market closing on Friday evening. So basically, like when the company was like close to being like bankrupt or fucked in the stock market, they did everything in their power to get to Friday without breaking, because then they could like rest on the weekend, you know. They could pretend that nothing bad was happening, you know. And I keep seeing a lot of these companies doing stuff like that, because if you notice, the whole like go woke go broke, they haven't been getting broke because they have been merging a lot. And if you notice, Sony, like Stellar Blade is one of the acts of this desperation that Sony had in trying to reclaim the Japanese market, in my opinion, because they bought the exclusivity from that game, mainly because I think they knew that the game would appeal to Japan, because of the cute Asian girl and stuff, you know. And
She's
like,
Korean.
yeah, but she's Asian. Like, you got me. Japanese like that kind of stuff, like the cute Asian and stuff like that.
Yes,
like-
but don't call a Korean Japanese. Just
No,
don't.
I know, no, I didn't. I
You'll get
didn't
your
call
head
her.
ripped off.
I didn't call her Japanese. I called her Asian. But like, you get me, and like, but they tried to quote unquote make the West happy as well. Like they're like trying to. They don't know what they're doing, even though it's easy. They don't know what they're doing,
Mm.
and they're trying to save their brand over there.
Now, with that, thank you for your time, Spider Pig, but we must grab another bucket fishing.
No worries. Have fun.
Good dunk.
Goodbye, Spider.
And then we'll grab Corsivo. It's now Corsivo's turn. So, of course, what? Tell us your thoughts on the issues. He's muted.
He's muted. Yeah, I was like,
I was going back and forth between my second computer, and I was about to go into
Hello?
there just
Hello?
to make sure Corsiva's mic was actually not
That's
hitting
fine.
itself.
We'll
like
find
usual.
out on stream.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I think it's partly the community's fault as well, because there's like a hyper focus on the PSN linking account instead of like the countries like getting banned from like accessing the game or something like that. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents about it, because everyone was just complaining about the linking. No one was complaining about the actual like people affected by this change that much anyway.
I mean, that is definitely true. That's honestly what I've been trying to do on Twitter, and it's not really having too much effect reach-wise. It's because I do think too many people are like, oh, I have to make a PSN account. I'm inconvenienced. And it's like, all right, that's good. You know, you're upset about that because, yeah, it is annoying making a PSN account. But it doesn't seem like a lot of people are actually upset about the region blocking. It seems like they're more like, oh, I was inconvenienced. It's like, okay, but like, what about not being able to play the game? And like, well, that's bad, I guess. And it's like, what do you mean you guess? That's the biggest, the worst issue about the PSN thing isn't the inconvenience of making an account. It's the fact that it removes the game from certain people's ability to play it. Like, I've got a lot of friends in some of these places, and they can't play it at all. And it's because PSN doesn't have coverage there. And that's kind of the big issue of the whole thing. PSN is bad, right? But it's not as bad as, I mean, like, yeah, no, they can't play at all, right? That's the real crux of the issue. And PSN is tied to it. But we beat the PSN issue, but the main meat of the issue is still there. People can't buy it from Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, you know, or any of those countries on that list there, right, that we've been looking at this entire day.
Also, as a result, I feel like Sony like feels like they can get away with it more because of the fact that, oh yeah, it's just a PSN thing, we'll just get rid of it, but we'll still do the region blocking as a result.
You know,
Sony has always had a history in this. If you want another example, look at Crossplay and how Sony was very adamant of, no, you must be on the Sony ecosystem, you're not allowed to play with everybody else. It's only a very recent phenomenon that even allowed this, like say Helldivers.
Yeah, because that's the big issue. The big issue is I think not a lot of people are willing to commit beyond just like, I made a negative review. And it's like, all right, but like, now
There's
what if
too
they
much,
don't,
yeah.
what if they don't do it? Like, you switch the review back to positive because they did the right thing, but now it's been another week. And I'm looking at my positive review right now, and I'm like, I think I might switch it back because, well, the reality is this issue is not addressed. I know the developers aren't at fault, but the only way it seems to get Sony to recognize the issue is to shake the developer a little bit, and it helps incentivize the developer to shake Sony, because the only way we can really impact PlayStation is basically by shaking the developer, because they'll complain to PlayStation and they have a direct line of communication. We don't.
Yeah. And one thing I've kind of noticed over the years, while say Western developers would be more sensitive to social media and stuff like that, Japan, creating a stink online doesn't seem to entirely reach them. Might be I think it's a cultural thing. If I were to throw an idea about that.
Well, yeah, their culture is very different in terms of like criticizing things is not. It's I wouldn't say it's a social taboo, based on what I've seen, but it's not something you see on a level that like we see in the West, where people are like fucking tearing their hair out, which honestly, you know, can be a bit much at times, but it's still good to, you know, be upset and be vocal.
But yeah, that was all I had, to be honest. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that part.
That's okay. That's what these sections of the stream are for. It's allow other people to voice their thoughts, or if they disagree with us on a point or something like that. Just because I think it's more interesting and more fun. Plus, we made this overlay thing, and I kind of want to use it because it's supposed to generate new guests as they appear. And it works.
I really like the overlay. I really like
All right, we'll put you back in the bucket. Thank you for your time, Kosovo.
No problem.
Goodbye, Kosovo.
You don't.
That's so cool. The color section thing worked. I mean, Chatfish are kind of shy. You know, it's fair, chat. I get it. I don't expect to see Decompresso in there. See, it wasn't just being Depresso on
He's
this.
too busy
Sony
posting
came back
furry
with
stuff
more
in comments.
nonsense.
Damn.
I grew up with
Aggressive
mobile game devices, Game Boy, and PC. I do not mind Xbox and PlayStation dying for good. The damage and infection has gone too far. There is no saving and fixing this. Yeah, no. I don't think consoles are in a position to justify their existence anymore. I think that the day of reckoning that we talked about many years ago has finally come, and it's slowly happening now, and they're starting to realize it. Like, yeah, no, like
I say certainly for the PlayStation and Xbox. I think Nintendo's gonna be fine. On a mix
Nintendo
of-
weaseled out because there's two main factors that Nintendo is doing. Number one, they've managed to maintain their exclusive IPs and licenses and maintain a certain level of quality threshold. Number two, they realized that the console market was going to die and that there was only one way forward. And that was to basically take what they were doing with like the DS thing, but make their entire business model around portability. And now they've carved out their little market with the portability before everyone else. And now they've absolutely trumped it, right as Sony fucked up and dropped the PSP. When in actuality, Sony should have doubled down on the PSP stuff because the PSP stuff was their future.
I think the problem with the PS Vita flopped really fucking hard. And I can also tell you why, probably because I looked at this and, oh, you can put a SIM card into it and use it as a phone. No, you can't use it as a phone. You can just use it for internet. If that would have had phone functionality, probably would have worked.
Yep. The PSP, in my opinion, was Sony's golden ticket to the next generation, along with Nintendo. And portability is the way of the future for consoles. And the only other there's two paths, like I said before. Portability and basically, economic PCs. Those are the
Now,
two
what do we
options
learn
they
about
have.
Sony? They hate success.
Sony chose to abandon the PSP because the PSP Vita failed, right? Then they chose to not have any games and to make their stuff very restrictive, which is pissed off and scared off a lot of customers, pissed off and scared off a lot of developers, and now they find themselves in the in-between, where they're trapped in a dying market. In a market that it's like, it's going the way of the dodo. Consoles are going to become either plug and play, relatively plug and download, more like PCs. So you can just plug it in, entertainment system, basically entertainment system, which is already where the Xbox is already waddling to. That's what the Series X is anyways. It has already recognized its place in the market as, I'm an entertainment system. Plug me in, I can play games, I can watch movies, I can listen to music, I can browse the internet. I'm basically a PC, and in a generation or two more, I will just be a PC. I'm basically a PC already. That's what the Xbox Series X is.
I want to agree with you in that, but looking at the shit that comes out of the shills from that and the fanboys.
I mean,
specific,
look
not
at what
shills,
that thing
fanboys.
looks
Okay.
like.
Yeah, just look what the fanboys are just
No,
pulling off.
hold on a
Those
second.
people are just.
So, if you look at the Xbox Series X, right? I don't want to buy one because it's like a crappy PC, but it's just a PC. Like
But what?
it's just a PC tower.
Herman, you would
I
be
have to-
surprised. You
Uh,
would be surprised how many shields online on PlayStation are actually from the third world, because like the PlayStation 2 was very strong in the third world because it could be easily jailbroken. And,
Jailbroken, it was
they-
also relatively cheap to manufacture and
Yeah.
produce, and so that's
Yeah.
why the PS2 was massive. The PS2, and I agree with a lot of what Chat says. The PS2 was Sony's height. The PS2 and the PSP, like that was their height. Everything after that, the PS3 has been trying to play catch up to everyone else. Just like
Also,
Nintendo. Nintendo did that with the Wii. They focused on the gimmick and they managed to do okay. But the Wii U fucking face planted. And Nintendo saw what was happening. The market was being dominated by Xbox. The console wars were over. The Xbox more or less won. But at the same time, the Xbox didn't really win. It just also is going the same way. Like, it's just the natural state of things. With the technological level we've reached now, it's just the time of having, like, when I look over those consoles over there, that PS2, which I can see its red light on, and the PS3's little red light, and Xbox 360 over there, like, that time has come and gone. It's over. And yeah, there'll always be a place for it in gaming history, and it played a great role in the gaming that we got, but it's more or less, its history is over. It's time to accept, chat.
See, I think this is also part of why the PS Vita didn't do well, because it came around at the same time where smartphones were really blowing up, and people were going, okay, I can get the PS Vita, or I can get the smartphone. A lot of people probably went for the smartphones.
Yeah, smartphone, because more practical use.
Because that is a big problem. Because if you can have... It's why nowadays something like an MP3 player, it's not really that much a thing, because, okay, I can either...
Oh,
bring
the
my MP3 player.
the Steam streaming deck thing, or PC thing. That was awful. God, and the controller that came with that, with the touchpad controls, anything that has touchpad interface and isn't analog, makes me want to kill myself. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but this is gonna be a problem, because have you ever seen that picture of all of the devices that are now in your smartphone? There's that old picture that 20 years you would have need all of this shit, and now you have all of it on your smartphone. So there's a lot of stuff you don't need. So PC, okay, and the co-gaming thing, you can't just port a game and have the same game on mobile versus a dedicated mobile console. That wouldn't work. So Nintendo's approach is the right thing. That you need to go with some level of exclusivity for that.
Yep.
But why would I bring a Nintendo?
I mean, the
DS
only
and a
reason
smartphone?
why Nintendo's been able to hold on to exclusivity is because they control a lot of those developers, more or less. And
Or
so,
in the house. Also, I have to interrupt. It was fun podcasting, but I have life stuff to do.
all right, take care, Fuzzy.
Take
Bye,
care.
Widow Fuzzy.
Go on,
Bye,
get.
Fuzzy.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, all in
We're
all,
over time anyways.
I'm a little sad that today's stream turned out talking about this subject again. Hopefully,
I have a good subject for the stream.
no.
I have the
This stream
subject.
is wrapping. Shut up, Bino.
No.
Shut up, Beat. Oh my God, Draconis wants to say something. All right, chat. Try
Oh,
not to be
no.
mean. Let's hear it.
Oh yeah, show Draconis.
Feels
show
something
people
wrong,
Draconis.
but
The
no, we're not
Draconis.
showing. We're not showing that.
Quiet,
Shut up.
Bino. Draconis, speak.
Hello.
All right, speech and
Look,
don't be mean to him. No. Draconis, all right, say your piece, buddy.
I just wanted to say that consoles are already affordable gaming PCs. They just need to embrace that.
Let's turn you up a little bit more.
Like Microsoft, for example, they just need to embrace that consoles are already affordable gaming PCs, essentially.
Yep, it's honestly I think the only way the console can go forward, the way it is, or it's got to go portability. Like that's the two options they have. The ghost is sitting there in silence. He's embarrassed. He's scared.
right. Now the good news. I found out that the dev that made Bad Rats is Brazilian.
That makes sense.
I feel like I want to dunk Pino.
So we have a Brazilian game that you guys can play.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Draconis. I'll put you back in the bucket.
Goodbye.
Kerplunk. Now, we need a kerplunk sound effect that plays every time we grab. That'd be great. I have to talk to the program to see if that's possible. So,
Probably
this will wrap up today's stream, I think, on the subject. Hopefully, this is the last time we have to stream about this. I would like to move on to more
optimists.
to more greener pastures, because I was gonna talk about how like the resurgence of RTS and as well as like a good new age of games is coming, but I had to put that subject on hold.
You know what, Tips? I think you should play more RTS.
Speaking of, we will
the
actually be
channel.
playing an RTS, and hopefully this game will not be in the subject as a as a recommendation against it. But we'll be streaming Homeworld 3, so we're gonna go and raid into Homeworld 3 stream. I gotta set it up. I'm a little late. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the new OST in the background. We will release the music for free, and we are basically converting the music from our game into sort of like sort of chill, sort of I don't know what you call this. Not synthwave. Also, welcome aboard, Kurilu Stromboli.
He said it was lo-fi.
Yeah, it's like lo-fi. So we're having our composer put together all our music and turning them into lo-fi tracks, just so we can use them for the podcast series. And then we'll be
Wait
releasing
a
them for
minute,
Chatfish
that's
to listen to.
lo-fi. Is
Yeah.
this why YouTube suggests lo-fi and my recommended to this thing?
This is Celeste Themes, if I remember right, that's playing right now, I think.
Yeah. But it suggests lo-fi, which normally doesn't do for me, so...
Well, the thing
I
about
have good
lo-fi is
algorithm.
I think it's good background. Chat, I hope you enjoyed it, because Robert worked very hard on this. It's very nice. We're gonna go for we're gonna try to make it about an hour long. There's only like 3 tracks that are done right now, but once we have all of them complete, it'll be released, and then you can listen to it on your own. And so you'll have it as well as a thank you for supporting us. But yeah, we'll be getting ready for Homeworld 3. We'll see you over there. We'll be shooting up some spaceships. Hopefully that RTS is a good game. If not, I'll be sad. Thank you for joining us, chat, and we'll see you in the next Bunchcast next week. Goodbye, little Chatfish.
Bye.
Have a good one now.
Goodbye.